What I mean, what if he signs? What if he signs a short term, really high per year amount? Do you think he'd be more apt to sign, say, a 2-year, $55 million deal with say a $10 million signing bonus, which would give him like 32.5 million a year if you include the signing bonus, or do you think he's going to want like a 4-year, $120 million deal?
Well, here's the
which
thing.
would pay him about 30 million on average.
See, if he takes that 2-year approach, right? And I know a lot of people don't like LeBron, but LeBron he's a great businessman. He set himself up so that every couple of years he can get re-upped for more money. 3
Not
years
to
more
mention,
money, 3 years more money.
with that too, it gives the team more flexibility too.
Yep.
So like, that's a potential thing that could work there. Jake and I are talking about what the Packers are going to do potentially with Davante Adams. We're going to have Andy Herman in here in just a minute. We're going to definitely ask him about the Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers situations. But we're just starting for another Wisco Fanatics Wednesday. Want to thank Parker Johns for sponsoring us. Yes, we're going to have Andy Herman on today. We're going to ask him a bunch of Packers-related questions. Some draft related questions, some free agency related questions, some personnel related questions, and then after Andy dips back out, Jake and I are going to go through them again and give our answers to the questions that we want to ask. And then we're getting really close to draft prep season. Like, I know I've said it a whole bunch of times, but I'm so excited for draft prep. I know, because like I find all these players that it's like, oh, cool. Now I fell in love with this player and I want him on the Packers, like Simi Fehoko last year, and then he got drafted by the Cowboys. It's like, oh, that was a gut-wrenching one.
Yeah, now I have to hate you because you played for the Cowboys.
Welcome. Andy Herman is here. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, you bet.
How's it going? All right. It's going good. So we want to do our best to be respectful of your time. So
yes, sir.
If you're ready, we'll just jump right in. And we wanted to talk about the Packers and some of their pre-draft and pre-free agency stuff. So I would say the first question we wanted to ask is, what do you think are the Packers' top 3 positions of need?
Whew, that's a loaded question. And I think I think that's the thing that's so interesting about this offseason, right, is that it could literally be almost anything. It could be quarterback. It could be wide receiver. It could be tight end. Could be edge rusher if everyone besides Gary is gone. I think they're probably pretty good at running back, offensive line, corner for the most part, maybe safety, depending if Amos is back or not. But, man, I mean, just depending on what happens with the domino effect from Rodgers to Adams to Devondre Campbell to guys like Billy Turner, Amos, Dean Lowry. I mean, you could go from if they bring the majority of this team back, everything's just kind of rounding out the edges, right? Like you don't really have a major concern. Wide receiver probably becomes one of the top positions. If all of a sudden Rodgers and Adams and Campbell are gone, well, then you're looking at just about everything, right? In sort of a rebuild sort of mode. So I think that's one of the things that's just so incredibly unique about this offseason is normally around this time, I can look at you guys and be like, all right, here's the 3 things they need. Here's the 3 things that are probably going to happen. Here's the 2 or 3 guys that are going to get cut. Here's 2 or 3 free agents they might look at. And this is just until that first domino falls, it's kind of Brian Gutekunst was saying just the other day, it's near impossible to be like, all right, it's this, and then this, because this could go. I've equated it to, Doctor Strange calculating the ways that he could potentially beat Thanos, right? Like Brian Gutekunst and Russ Ball's heads just bobbing all over the place, trying to figure out exactly what way this is going to go. So your guess is as good as mine, but of course, wide receiver, depending on Adams, MVS, everything, Cobb, etc., is going to be one to really keep an eye on.
Go ahead.
Well, for me, the 3 that I listed, assuming that what I think is that Rodgers and Devontae will have it worked out. For me, I still went for defensive end, wide receiver, and tight end. Jake, I don't know if those are the 3 you're looking at too.
No, my top 3. First of all, nice to meet you, by the way. Loved your video that you put out the other day. I really loved listening and hearing about your story. That was actually awesome, and you just lit a fire in me, man. You just made me want to be better.
I appreciate that.
But the top 3 positions that I did, a little less heartfelt here. I did defensive line / defensive end, tight end, and I went offensive tackle. I think getting since we have Bakhtiari locked up, I think getting a really good, right tackle, kind of like what Tampa Bay did a couple years ago when they drafted Wirf, and now they're just set at offensive line for years. I think that's something that can be really important. Either for protecting Rodgers because he's 38 years old, or the growth of Jordan Love if that's the route that they end up going. You just put a premier offensive line in front of him, have two good running backs, and then you kind of just build from there. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, and this is why like team building is so interesting, right? Because there's no perfect way. There's no system that you can follow to a T and be like, all right, do this, and then you win a Super Bowl. There's so many different things. You have to look at your strengths and weaknesses, right? Like I think one of Green Bay's legitimate strengths is Adam Stenavich. And, you might not need premium players at premium positions because he's shown that he can get by with those. Now, I think the other thing here is David Bakhtiari good to go moving forward? If so, then you've got, a really great left tackle for the foreseeable future. And is Elton Jenkins in the cards to move to right tackle long-term, which I don't think is out of the question either. And now
I said that before the show. I was actually proposing that to Jake.
Yeah. So, I mean, if all of a sudden, by mid-season next year, Jenkins and Bakhtiari are your starting tackles, that's as good as it gets. So then it doesn't become as much of an issue. Mm-hmm. However, we don't know fully on Bakhtiari. We don't know if Billy Turner is going to be back. And I think you also have to, we also know that Elton Jenkins can play well anywhere, right? So, his ability to be a unicorn and line up at any position and be great is sort of his strength. So, just plugging him in at right tackle and being like, all right, we're just going to leave you there. While there's some advantages to that, you sort of lose out on one of your biggest strengths and just his versatility. So that's why I think this is just such a really unique conversation to have, is because you can make an argument that, continuing to build depth on the O-line, whether that's for Rodgers or Love or whomever else, is going to be super important. You could make an argument of, I've seen this Packers team with great offensive lines. I've seen them with great running games. I've seen them with really good tight ends. I've seen them with, solid. We saw the defense last year, right? Great corners. The one thing I haven't seen yet, at least as of late, since the Jordy and Jennings and those sort of things, we haven't seen that explosive wide receiver core. Like just a player to get them over the top and be like, you know what, screw it. We've got Aaron Rodgers and we have Devontae Adams and we've got this guy and we've got this guy in the slot, and screw you, we're putting up 40 points a game. And you know what? Good luck. We've got Jair and Stokes at corner. We've got Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark rushing the passer. We're going to take you out of being able to run the ball because we're going to put up 40 some points in a game. So, if it's Rodgers getting, somehow some more weapons, some more explosiveness, some more run after the catch guys, that to me is still something that I don't think we've quite tested yet. Not since Rodgers has been in his prime. And in a way, you bring him back, I would love to see Goot somehow make some sort of splash move to say, all right, we're weaponing up. We saw that a team can take Devontae Adams out of the equation with double covering them in the playoffs. We've seen that for a few years now. We also saw Cooper Kupp in the playoffs. And when Odell Beckham was on the other side, the same 49ers team that took Devontae out, couldn't just focus on Cooper Kupp because they had Odell on the other side. They had to focus on both, and that allowed Kupp to get some traction. So I would be intrigued to see what this offense and this team could do with maybe a little bit more firepower.
How would you feel about like a Chris Godwin?
See, that's the issue, right? It's like, I don't think there's a world in which they can spend the money that it's going to take to get a top tier wide receiver in free agency. I just don't think it's realistic. So, excuse me, whether that's, going out and getting a top tier draft pick at wide receiver, and legitimately, I know it's like, the first round wide receivers, such a taboo topic or whatever, but whether it's something like that, whether it's trading a first round pick for a young receiver who's super talented, that's still in the first year of his first contract, right? So like he's not super expensive yet. I think there might be have to be some creativity and thinking outside the box, but that might be the legit thing that you're missing to maybe get you over the hump.
What about a potential? This is probably more of a cost-friendly guy, but what about, say, Jamison Crowder?
Yeah, see, I think there's all sorts of options there, right? And I do think it's worth noting as well that plug and play wide receiver in this offense isn't quite as easy as it sounds. It's not Madden. So much of this offense is predicated on the blocking ability of these wide receivers. And all those wide receiver screens to the outside that go for 8 to 10 yards because the wide receivers are blocking really well. A lot of the running game, Aaron Jones getting it to the outside, AJ Dillon getting it to the second level. those things are happening because the receiver's blocking. And if you don't have that, the offense changes quite a bit relatively quick. So like, yeah, like it sounds great, but if you know, if Jamison Crowder's in the slot, something like that, and he's not that guy, he's not blocking, you know, it's not that super easy either, which is a huge reason why I don't think I think Beckham was going to go to the Rams either way, but like maybe they weren't a little bit more aggressive in that is because again, this position in Green Bay is more than just catching the ball and run after the catch. There's a lot that goes into it. And guys like MBS and Lazard, EQ have mastered that other side of it and become really good blockers and know the offense and know the nuances. Now I was just wondering, do you have enough explosive firepower?
I'm just going to cut out when we're done. I'm just going to cut out the part where you said this isn't Madden, and that's the only part I'm going to share when we're done.
I gotta say, man.
I'll see you guys later.
I heard you talking about Madden, how you were ranked in the top 100. I was actually ranked in the top 100 one time, and I was like, man, I want to play this guy now. Do you play anymore or no?
No, I'm awful. I'm absolutely awful. So, I mean, as I was mentioning in that video, is like I basically had to stop everything else, right? So I've, as I mentioned, 2 kids, wife, family. You know, Xavier's in soccer all the time. You know, obviously they're both in school. I've got a 55 hour work week, you know, job during the day that's not anything Packers related. You know, so I'm doing all of that, and then in my spare time, it's all Packers stuff. Is where my free time goes. So. The time to play Madden and watch movies and watch TV shows and do all that sort of stuff is basically gone out the window because in most times I'm spending that time doing Packer stuff, recording the videos, you know, setting up the audio, et cetera, et cetera. So this is my fun. This is what I do to, you know, enjoy in my spare time. So all that other stuff is unfortunately taking a hit, and also when you do play at that level and when you are super competitive and when you have been ranked that high, going out and not being good is not fun at all. So, and you know how, like, you know, the grind that it takes to like be that good at it. It takes a legitimate amount of time, effort, energy, like even strategy. Like I used to have very specific strategies and things that I would work on. And I mean, it's almost like a sport, right? So if you're not doing that and you're just sort of resting on what you used to be able to be good at, you know, 10 years ago, you're just not going to be that good. So that it's really frustrating if I go out and play now and I can't just, you know, beat people by 30. It's very demoralizing.
I know that feeling now. I just had a kid, so I had to take a lot of Madden time off, and it's like, golly, man, it's hard taking losses now, man. I've just been wiping ass, man. That's all I've been doing.
I hear you.
So I know you didn't give any super specific positions of need or if you've gotten into any draft prep or so, or just kind of getting into draft season, but are there any players just maybe off the top of your head or guys that you've kind of started to look at that you're interested in some of the positions that the Packers could be needing?
Yeah, draft prep I haven't really started yet. So my usual is, you know, end of, you know, January is still like recapping the season. So obviously I've got all the film study and season that I'm doing. January sort of wrapping everything up. And then February is my month. I always start like I did like the first 3 prospects right away in February. And then I am like, I'm just drained. Like I need my time to relax and re-energize just a little bit. So February is usually where I take a little bit of time to recharge the batteries a bit. And then in March, I start diving into the draft. And of course, free agency comes and that all comes together. And then of course, you know, so March and April become warp speed with draft stuff and starting to really watch all 22 and film breakdown on prospects and stuff like that. And my goal every year is, you know, I don't really need to go. I would love to, but just from a time standpoint, I don't really need to get, you know, past the top 100. I really want to know the top 100 guys really, really well is my goal each year. And then have like at least an understanding of who like the next 200 guys are just in like a roundabout capacity, right? Where they played, what their skills were, maybe a couple highlights here and there that I can at least have an understanding of like, okay, that's who this is. But once March picks up, I'll dive really hard and aggressively into those top 100 prospects to know. And then, you know, when Green Bay has their top 3 selections in the draft, I can speak very educatedly to those. And then rounds 4 through 7, I'll go and do film study once they've actually selected the players and so on and so forth.
All right. So I just want to throw out the Packers have met with 4 guys that I've found so far. It's an offensive lineman, Shamarius Gilmore, a tight end, Chigoziem Okonkwo, and then 2 wide receivers, Traylon Burks and Taysier Mack. If you had to pick one of those 4, who do you think is the most likely to end up in Green Bay?
Yeah, I mean, literally, you guys might as well be speaking a foreign language to me right now, because like I said, I just haven't done too much draft prep yet. Burks would be super intriguing within the offense. I do know a little bit about him. Obviously, his explosivity and his ability to get down the field. But again, wide receiver in this offense is a lot more than just catching the ball and run after the catch and stretching the field. So, but like I said, going into this offseason, I would love to see some more explosive playmakers for Rodgers. We've seen what guys like an AJ Brown or a Debo Samuel or a Debo Metcalf, even guys that are taken in the second round, like that they can add to the team. Guys like Michael Pittman Jr. and T Higgins. There's been guys that have been available in that early second round of the draft that have really made a difference and an influence. So finding a guy like that, adding them to this offense, and hopefully thriving with that type of player would be very interesting and intriguing to me.
I like that. What were your impressions of the Rich Bisaccia hire? I mean, on that own, does it on its own, does that fix special teams?
No, certainly not. I love the hire. I think, and I've equated this basically to, you've got a really crappy restaurant, like just a brutally crappy restaurant, awful ingredients, awful location, awful feng shui, scenery, setting, awful waitresses and waiters. You've got just the worst setup you could possibly have. And if you're only fix to that is bringing in a new chef, you're still going to suck, right? Like your ingredients are still terrible. Everything about your place is still awful. Yep. So if it's just a new chef, doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. You need new ingredients. You need a new, practice schedule. You need to train everyone up better. You need to have a full organizational recharge of what this third tier, not offense, not defense, but special teams, what this means to your franchise. And that, you don't have to be amazing at it, but you certainly can't be bad at it. And you can't be the worst ever at it. So I think it's going to take more than just a hire. I love the fact that they brought in Bisaccia. To me, one of my favorite aspects of that hire is he just came from a really awful situation with the Raiders, right? Like coach gets canned, mid-season amongst odd circumstances. You've got a wide receiver that gets into, but you have to cut because of all the legal issues and the stuff that he does off the field. Mm-hmm. This team is in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, and yet somehow he leads them to a playoff berth. And I think a deserved one, and one that I never would have expected that they would have been able to get to, especially with the way that AFC was playing down the stretch. And I think if you can take that team and that situation and somehow find a way to get them to the playoffs, that shows me that you know how to handle a crappy situation and make the most of it. Well, welcome to Green Bay special teams. About as crappy of a situation as you can possibly have. Let's see if we can make the most of it.
Man, oh man.
Yeah, he got some coach of the year buzz from what he did with the last half.
It wasn't far off from LaFleur. He had like 2 or 3 less votes than LaFleur did.
Yeah. And with that too, I mean, I forgot what I was going to say about that too. I love that analogy of the restaurant. I think that's a really good analogy of a way to explain it. So this is a kind of a broad question, but what kind of personnel fixes can the Packers do to kind of fix their special teams? It's obviously not going to happen with just one player, but what kind of personnel fixes could they make?
Yeah, I think it's just prioritizing it, right? So like even in the past, they've had guys on the roster like Anthony Levine and Chris Banjo who left Green Bay and literally had decade-long careers in the NFL as special teams guys. Like those are the guys that you need to like those. Not only did those guys thrive on special teams, they loved special teams. Like that was their thing. Yeah, Chris Banjo and Anthony Levine probably not going to bring a ton to the table, but this is a perfect example, right? Vernon Scott was kept on the roster last year as a safety. Vernon Scott, I think, I don't know if he was active for a game. If it was like one game. He didn't play a snap on defense. They kept him on the roster all year as basically a redshirt guy. And he brought nothing to the table on special teams. He didn't do anything on defense. And Green Bay's philosophy, and this has been something we've seen with guys in the past, like Alex Light, with Yosh Nijman, with Tim Boyle, where they're giving some of these young, undrafted, in his case, late drafted guys, redshirt seasons to hope that they eventually develop into something. And Yosh Nijman turned out to be a pretty great story this past year in doing that. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get some success stories every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Again, Yosh being that. But this past season, if the last guy on your roster is in a season where you're all in, right? A season where you're completely all in and trying to win a Super Bowl, and you know what that season means to you. Keeping Vernon Scott as your 53rd guy who literally doesn't see the field all season, instead of going out and, finding a guy or keeping a guy in your roster that can just be a special teams demon and a special teams guru and loves it and is a captain of it. And like, that's what they're there for. Those are the sort of decisions that you need to make. It's not like there's a time and a place where keeping those guys at the end of the roster pay off and can eventually pay dividends. In these type of seasons, when you are all in, there's no room. There's no room for a Vernon Scott as well, we hope he turns out 2 years from now. That has to be a specialist. That has to be a guy who can go down and be a top gunner on special teams. That can just be a game wrecker on special teams, who can punt protect so you don't have a blocked punt on special teams. So I think it's just that overall thought process and philosophy of, you know what, those last 3-4 guys on the roster who, we would love to keep on the roster and develop, for a handful of seasons from now. Screw that. You can't do that right now. You got to go all in, you got to win, and you got to keep those specialists on the roster.
Well, if you want an example, just look in New England. Matthew Slater's been playing there for 10 years? Guy's a Pro Bowler every year. All he does is play special teams. He's the best in the league. I know that he's the peak, but those are decisions that Bill Belichick makes that keeps them winning, even with guys like Mac Jones. It's just, I agree with you 100%, and it hurts my heart that we lost the way we did. Oh my God. That was so gut-wrenching, man.
It was not fun. I was there. Not fun at all.
I got offered tickets. I just had to work really early in the morning on Sunday, and I was just like, nah.
You're lucky.
What if we lose?
So I got a couple things. James is in the comments. He said, sign a new punter. We're going to get to punter. Right before we do that, I got a question from our buddy Cody. If you had to keep one and cut one between MVS and Lazard, who do you keep and who do you cut?
I mean, so contract matters here, right? So like the rate of each receiver is definitely, if MVS starts to get in that, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 million per year range, which I don't know is necessarily going to be the case, but if that starts to happen, I'm more apt to move on in that situation. I think Allen Lazard's a really sneaky, interesting discussion as well, because if you tender him as like a right of first refusal, right? It's like a little over a couple million for his services for the season. That sounds great, right? That's a no-brainer. $2 million for Allen Lazard, I'm in, right? But in that case, teams can sign him to offer sheets and they can front load the contract and make it so that Green Bay can't match it. And Green Bay would get nothing back in return. It would cost the team nothing. So basically he becomes an unrestricted free agent is what it does. And in that situation, I'm not sure Lazard ends up back in Green Bay. If they sign him to a second round tender, then he's not going anywhere. Nobody's giving up a second rounder for Allen Lazard. You guarantee he's going to be on the roster, but then he comes in at just a shade under $4 million for the season. Okay. In a vacuum for 1 year, $4 million for Allen Lazard, when you consider that his replacement, no matter who it is basically going to cost around $1 million at minimum. Like just like the sixth wide receiver on the roster is going to cost like $1 million. It's like $3 million more, right? So it's not like super exorbitant, but when you start thinking of like, all right, if you do a long-term deal with some voids for like a Rasul Douglas or a Devondre Campbell, like their first year in that deal is probably around $3 to $4 million. And then when we start having to pinch pennies because potentially you've got Adams and Rodgers on these massive deals and you only have so many of these little small contracts to go around, are you going to prioritize a guy like Douglas and maybe a Devondre Campbell or a 1 year deal for an Allen Lazard? And I think that becomes a really sneaky conversation as well. So just in general, I probably would lean MVS over Lazard if given the choice, like if apples to apples, right? If everything's equal. But I think there's an avenue where both are back. I think there's an avenue where both are gone or that either on the team. But I would give a slight nod to MVS if all things were equal.
I'm the MVS fan on the show. Just so you know.
I was the Lazard guy last season, and that's worked out. I mean, for me, it's the touchdowns. I mean, he had 8 touchdowns this season, and that's 16th in the NFL. More touchdowns than Keenan Allen and Gronkowski and guys like that. So, I mean, that was interesting to see how that worked out. But, the way that you break it down with the contracts is definitely how that's going to end up panning out. But one more question from the comments section is Oren Burks, keep or let go?
I think
I know how I feel about this one.
Yeah, I think he'll be gone. I mean, if I'm Oren Burks' agent, I'm going to say, hey, let's try something new, right? Like, you had your opportunities in Green Bay. An undrafted guy in Chris Barnes beat you out. They signed a guy to a cheap contract. He beat you out. Ty Summers, a 7th round pick. He beat you out. Like you're just a fifth or sixth inside linebacker they've tried you at different things and you're on some special teams and that's it. You've got upside. Some other team is going to sign you to a deal and give you an opportunity. Why not go somewhere else and try something different? That's what if I was his agent, that's what I'd be saying. If I'm Green Bay, I'm really saying the same thing, right? All right, we tried him some at outside linebacker. We tried him at inside linebacker. We tried him on special teams, and Chris Barnes beat him out. Devondre Campbell beat him out. Christian Kirksey beat him out. Yeah, like go on and on and on. Like basically, Ty Summers, everyone's beat him out, right? So at that point, you just got to be like, there's maybe still some upside there. Maybe there's some untapped potential, but you've gone through two regimes, Mike Pettin and Joe Barry. You've gone through different linebacker coaches. You've given him ample opportunities at different positions. If it hasn't clicked at this point, you're more willing to say, all right, you know what? If he goes somewhere else and tears it up, so be it. But probably not going to be that guy. And if somebody wants to pay him, so be it. Let him go.
I wanted Oren Burks gone in the middle of the season. His tackling, no matter where he was just awful last year. So yeah.
He was out of position a lot.
I'm good with moving on from Oren Burks. The next question we wanted to ask is, should the Packers keep Corey Bojorquez and Mason Crosby? I know Crosby is kind of up in the air a little bit if he's potentially mulling retirement, but do you think the Packers should keep those two guys with the new special teams coordinator coming in?
Yeah, I would really lean towards keeping Bojorquez. I just think that it's really tough to punt in Green Bay, and I know his numbers at times, were a little bit up and down, a little bit inconsistent. He seems like a super motivated dude. He's got a huge leg. And I think sometimes we forget that, now there's going to be 8 or 9 home games at Lambeau. There's a game in Chicago. You're already looking at, 9 to 10 games of the 17 that are potentially in poor conditions or at minimum outdoors. You get a game in Minnesota, you get a game in Detroit, but you also might have a game in Denver or KC or, who knows else, maybe New York, Buffalo. New England, Buffalo, yeah. Exactly, where all of a sudden you're, 12, 13 outdoor games. And I think that can be an effect. And I think that's a lot of the reason why it has been a struggle for punters in Green Bay for some time. So it's certainly not ideal conditions. I thought he did a pretty darn good job. And again, depending on what the contract is, he's still young enough. You traded 2 picks for him. I know you got one back, but you traded picks for him. I would more lean towards, bringing him back and seeing what he can do moving forward. As far as kicker, and we've seen the alternative, right? Like Green Bay's had so many awful punters that Bojo looks like a pretty darn good option in comparison.
Yeah, yes.
And then from a Crosby standpoint, I mean, I will be the first to admit, special teams is not my forte. It's tough to say how much of that was on Crosby, how much of it was on Bojo as the holder, how much of it was on Hunter Bradley and Steven Wirtle as long snappers. I think there was a lot going on there. The protection was brutal all year, which probably made Crosby speed things up, which makes him a little bit more inaccurate. So I think in general, you still probably have some faith that of all things, it was probably not him as much as others, although it looked like there were times where things were perfect and, he just wasn't banging it through the uprights. So I think the biggest thing with Crosby is I don't think you can bring him back at his current salary cap structure. So it's going to either take some sort of, restructure or reduction in cap, I think, to bring him back. I think otherwise, what you saw last year, I think it probably just behooves you to go in a different direction at that price.
This is an interesting question that Brad asked in the comments. But the XFL and the NFL partnering out to try rule changes. What kind of rule changes do you think you'd like to see the XFL try out?
I would like to see them try out not call taunting penalties, stupid, ridiculous taunting penalties. Yeah. I would like to see them try to do maybe some different stuff with pass interference. I think they I don't know what the ideas would be, but some of those ones where it's 30 yards
maybe make it reviewable.
Yeah, even the one they're just maybe that or the ones that are 30 yards underthrown and the receiver's trying to come back and those plays are just brutal. It was never going to be completed in the first place. I just think some things like that. I would love to see overtime, changed up. I would love to see I actually really like the XFL's kickoff rule where the guys were 10 yards apart and then you kicked off but this side couldn't go until the guy touched the ball. And I think that was a really creative way to minimize injuries and still make it that there's a kickoff. Yeah. I think all those sort of things would be things that would be at least on the top of my head. Same thing is there a way you can make the catch easier, to rule what is and isn't a catch, which still seems to be a nightmare every single year. So I think it's just all those fringe rules. I think people forget though sometimes, like, this is an imperfect game. There's so many things that happen in like an instant that you could legitimately go one way or the other on any given play, that you have to take some of the imperfections with it. But I love the fact that they have that relationship and that they're going to try to improve the game and just see what, creative rules might work to make the ultimate sport better.
Yeah, baseball did that a little bit with their minor leagues, and they tested
Absolutely.
out some rules. The same guy asked, "What would you do with overtime games?" My thing that I proposed was, if the first team goes and scores a touchdown, the other team would get you get a kickoff. My proposition was, you get a 2-minute warning, you get a 2-minute drill to go and then potentially tie the game, as opposed to a touchdown and the game's over. That was my proposal. Was just a 2-minute. You get a 2-minute drill to tie the game. That was my idea. I don't know if you have a different idea. What would you do with overtime?
Yeah, I have a lot of things that I would like to see tried, to be quite honest. But the one that I'm really leaning towards right now, that I tend to like and I think makes sense and kind of keeps the consistency of the game intact, is the home team automatically gets the ball in first in overtime. Get rid of the coin flip. And the reason I love this is because, and keep the same rules as it is. You score a field goal or whatever, the other team gets a rebuttal. And if it's a touchdown, the game's over. And the reason I like that is because then the onus is on the road team to not go into overtime. The road team knows that they are behind the 8 ball, that they need to win in regulation. And if they don't win in regulation, the home team is going to get the ball first. Or you could also do it this way, where the home team gets to choose if they want to get the ball first or kick, because maybe it's a very defensive game and the wind's all over the place. The home team gets to choose if they want to receive or kick to start the overtime. That's I think an easy fix, because it takes chance out of it. Every team knows going in, and it gives the home team another advantage, right?
Right.
And in that scenario, if you're at home, you get the ball first in overtime, crowd's going to be on your side. And again, I think you'd see more 2-point conversions by the away team at the end of the game to avoid overtime, which I think makes things more exciting.
Yep.
And it just takes any sort of random chance of who gets the benefit of the ball first, or that choice, out of the equation. And if you're the better team in the playoffs, you should get that benefit. If you're the better team in the Super Bowl, the better seed, you should get that advantage. So to me, that's a really easy fix, where it takes chance out of it, and it eliminates all of the sort of concerns that anyone has to this point. And like, you can say then, like, if it happens in that Chiefs Bills game of like, well, Josh Allen didn't, get to touch the ball. Well, in that case, he would have, right? Well, no, were the Bills the home team or the Chiefs the home team? Chiefs are the home team?
Chiefs.
Yeah, Chiefs are home team. So I guess, he wouldn't have, but they would have known before that, that, hey, if we don't want this to go to OT, we better go for two and take the chance out of it. We're going to put the ball in Josh Allen's hands rather than our defense's hands.
Well, that's yeah, I like that too, because I really like that thought of, that gives a little bit more incentive for you to go and get a higher seed, is that overtime is on your side.
Yep.
And it's less of a 50-50 chance of winning a coin toss. Yeah. Yeah, that's
I like that
an
a lot.
interesting part of that too.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, that's been my favorite one so far. There's other ways that I think you can make it very entertaining. But to me, that takes just the randomness out of it. And it's very clear going into the game what you have to do. And I don't think you can complain and be like, well, we didn't have a fair chance. Well, you absolutely did. You were the road team. If you didn't want it to go to OT, you better freaking want it in regulation.
Yeah.
Yep. I like that.
So this is kind of our buddy James asked us more of a basic football question. Do you think the pressure is more on the offense to score or on the defense to get a stop on a regular drive, just any game? So it's a tough question. And the reason I say this is I really believe that each game lives in sort of its own vacuum. Each game is sort of its own entity. That 49er Packer game was a defensive struggle. I think in a way that, like, you knew that this was going to be a low scoring game, poor conditions, poor weather. Quarterbacks weren't playing great. Guys were making uncharacteristic mistakes. We saw a drop from George Kittle. We saw Mercedes Lewis this was just going to be a defensive struggle. And I think in that scenario, the onus is on the offense to not turn over the ball. I think the onus is on the defense to continue to play consistent football, make them drive the length of the field and not give up big plays. I think the onus is on the special teams to do your job and pin the other team down so that they have to go the length of the field and not make catastrophic mistakes. I just think every single game has its own identity. And in certain cases, that's going to put a ton of pressure on the offense to put up serious points. I think in certain cases, it's going to put a ton of pressure on the defense to know that if we allow 14 points, we're going to lose this game. I think in other cases, as again, that 49er game, not to keep, tearing the flesh wound back open, but
Special teams has a ton of pressure on it. So, and I think even like everything, like a missed field goal, like we saw with Crosby, the block field goal, like all of those things play a massive role in a low scoring game like that. So I just think every game has its own unique identity, and it's going to be different for every game.
I think for me, this was a season-long thing, something that I brought up basically every week was third down defense.
Yeah.
That was something that I always came back to.
I think
it was like a 10% difference in what most teams were converting and what the Packers were giving up.
I think that's why they spend so much time in those special situations, right? Third and fourth down defense and red zone, right? Like there's three things that teams are going to preach ultimately: turnovers, third and fourth down efficiency, and red zone offense and defense. Like if you can win in those three categories, you're going to win more often than not. And if you want to start trending things out, the first thing I look for at a game, if you want to tell early, is who's winning the trenches. If a team is consistently winning in the trenches on both, especially if it's on both sides of the ball, it's just going to be really like the other team's so far behind the eight ball in that situation. And then after that, I'm looking at, okay, what are what's the turnovers? What's the third down percentage and fourth down percentage? And then what's the red zone, efficiency? And if those are the things that the team spends so much time on: ball security and special situations. And if you can master those, you're going to have a great opportunity to be very successful. Green Bay over the course of the years has done really well with turnovers, mostly good with red zone offense, a little bit worse this year, mostly poor with red zone defense. Times they were better this year. And then usually they're very good on third and fourth downs. But those are the things that I'm always looking for.
All right. This is a potentially a long-winded question, but let's say tomorrow Rodgers announces that he retires. How would you gauge Jordan Love's readiness?
I don't think he's ready. I don't think that would necessarily matter. I think he would probably be the starter one way or the other. I think they definitely probably bring in someone, right? Whether it's a Marcus Mariota, whether they trade for, some, a different quarterback, whatever the case may be.
G, I've been hearing.
Yeah. I mean, maybe something. I would even think it would probably be somebody like a lower tier quarterback, just to be like a sort of soft competitor when they know they're going to.
I'd take a flyer on Tyler Huntley from Baltimore. Honestly, he looked good in Lamar Jackson's absence. I'd take a flyer on him.
That could be, there's a few different options that they could go with, but I wouldn't be shocked if they brought in competition. But here's the easy tell, right? If Jordan Love was ready to play and ready to compete at anywhere near a high level, you take the boatload of picks and you move on from Rodgers and you get your salary cap, right? And the fact that Green Bay is not only like not interested in doing that, but like not even remotely interested in doing that, to the point where they're going all in, mortgaging the future, bringing in Tom Clements, and just doing everything they can to hold on to Aaron Rodgers like grim death. I think that ultimately tells you all you need to know of, all right, if Rodgers isn't here, this could go rather poorly. So I don't think it's I don't think it's a be all end all for Jordan Love. I think he's got a lot of career and future ahead of him. I think he can still be a very good quarterback in this league. I would just be pretty surprised if all of a sudden week one comes along, Jordan Love's your starter, and he's all of a sudden throwing 350, 4 touchdowns, no picks. I'll be the first to say that I'd be a little surprised by that.
Yeah, I'm throwing a parade if he does that week one.
Right? Same.
You brought up Tom Clements, which is something we wanted to ask you about. Is what do you think his impact is on potentially Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love?
I mean, I think their hope is that it brings Aaron Rodgers back, right? Like, I think just similar to Randall Cobb last year, anything Randall Cobb could have provided outside of bringing Aaron Rodgers back is, icing on top of the cake. So if he can help bring Aaron Rodgers back, then he's basically paid his price as coach. But I think he's also just a really good quarterbacks coach. I think he's been able to really get some of the best years out of Aaron Rodgers. And I also think, if it is Jordan Love, right, like how many quarterback coaches would you rather have that have been able to mentor someone like Aaron, especially in sort of some of those transition years, and now, impart that wisdom into Jordan Love. So I think it's a really smart hire all the way around. I think there's no real downside. I think there's upside every single angle that you look at it, and a really smart hire for Green Bay.
Yes.
This is a really easy question. Do you think the Packers use their franchise tag?
I think they'll use it if they can't get a deal with Adams prior to the end of the tag deadline. I don't think they want to. I don't think Adams wants it at all. So I think the scenario where this happens is Rodgers is back. Rodgers says, I'm back, but you need to get Adams back too. And then probably Adams and his agent get wind of that and say, "Oh, you're only going to, you're only going to get Aaron back if you get Devontae back." Well, that just added 4 or 5 more million per season to Devontae's deal, right? And then, Green Bay has to give some assurance to Aaron and say, hey, if we don't get something done, we're going to franchise him to make sure that he's back this season. And while we continue to work on a long-term deal, I think there's an avenue there. How that goes with Devontae and how those things work, from a, order of operations standpoint remains to be seen. Like I said, I definitely don't think they want to do that, but it wouldn't shock me if that ended up happening.
So a question from our friend David just asked would they keep Adams if Rodgers leaves?
No, I don't see a scenario where Rodgers isn't on the team and Adams is back.
Oh, okay. Man. Talk about a gut hit. Oh,
that kicks
I don't think you do that to Adams, first of all, right? Because his legacy's on the line. He's almost 30. He's the best wide receiver in football. Are you really going to franchise him and keep him around? Adams, I'm sure probably doesn't want to be there in that situation. He's done so much for your team. I think you probably sign and trade him in that situation. I don't think you probably do that to him. And from your standpoint, why are you giving $30 million to a wide receiver when your championship window is not going to be open until he's well past his prime anyway? Yeah. It doesn't make sense all the way around. I can't imagine a scenario where that happens.
They could probably get 2 firsts for Adams, honestly.
It could be a big haul. You just never know.
I don't want it to happen, but I'm just saying.
I hear you.
All right. Last question we wanted to ask you. If you had to pick in free agency, if it comes down to it, between Devondre Campbell and Rasul Douglas, who do you re-sign?
I think you got to go Campbell. I think, with no Douglas, you still have Stokes and Jair. With no Campbell, it's Chris Barnes and a bunch of question marks, right? So I just think, first team All-Pro linebacker, who played great all season. Rasul Douglas still had 8-9 games, something like that. So really love Douglas. Think he makes a ton of sense. Would love to see him back in Green Bay. But if I had to choose between the two, it's a pretty big no-brainer for Devondre for me.
So I got a question just popped up. Do you have season tickets?
I do. I haven't used them as much because I'm credentialed now, so I just sit in the press box. But
that's awesome.
I do have season tickets as well. So I'll usually go to 1 or 2, usually at least 1, maybe 2 games per year, where I just sit in the stands, and then the rest of the time I usually go up in the press box.
Did you sit in the stands for the Rams or the Bears game?
No, I was in the stands for the Seahawks game for sure this past year, and in the Lions game.
I for the first time ever, I got to go to back-to-back games. So I saw both the pick sixes from Rasul Douglas. I got to say, one of the best experiences of my life. Rasul again. That was so sick, man.
Yeah, I think it was in the press box for both of those games, but it wasn't in the stands for either of those games.
It was loud. It was very loud for the Bears game. There was a lot of talking back and forth. I was in a section, and it was crazy to me. I was in a section where there was 8 Packers fans and 50 Bears fans. And I was like, am I at Lambeau Field? Are all the Bears fans in one section? It was just crazy to me. But there was a lot of shit talking.
You were on the east side of the stadium.
Yes, I was. But they were cheap tickets, $100. I couldn't say no.
There you go.
Let's do this. Oh, it was awesome. It was a great time.
All right. Well, we want to definitely thank you for joining us. It was definitely some good insights. I think the restaurant analogy is going to stick with me. That's a really good one for special teams. So we definitely want to thank you for taking some time to join us.
Hey, thanks, guys. It was awesome. I appreciated your time and great talking to you. We'll have to do it again soon sometime.
That would be awesome.
Maybe in 10 years we could join you in the press box.
There you go. Can't wait to see you guys.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Man.
That was good. I like that. That restaurant analogy was awesome.
All right. I don't feel as tight anymore. Oh, my gosh. I was not breathing. That was crazy. Man, that guy, I would just love to just sit down and just have a whole episode where it's just Packers and just have a bunch of Packer guys on here and just talk football, man. That's the fun.
Dude, I feel like even just the 3 of us, I bet we could easily talk for 2 hours.
Easily, dude.
We aren't even heavily into draft prep yet. We're gonna talk through now the same questions we asked, and we're gonna give our thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're 45 minutes in, and we haven't even said what we want to say yet. And we're not even super far into draft season yet, where it's these are the guys that the Packers are interested in. These are the guys that are performing well in the combine. We haven't even gotten into that yet. We haven't even gotten into these are the top 15 players at this position and this position. So, I mean, you kind of gave your 3 positions of need, but for me, it's D end, tight end, and wide receiver. And you said what? Offensive line, D
I
line.
said D-line, tight end, and offensive tackle.
Okay.
I'm not looking just strictly O-line. I'm looking offensive tackle. I want a good right tackle.
All right. So those 3 positions for you, give me one player at each position that you're looking at.
See, this was such a tease, man, and I fell in love with these guys because I'm watching highlight reel after highlight reel, and I'm reading their information, and I'm seeing their 40s, and I'm seeing all their abilities, and so the first thing I did before I did anything is I wanted to see where we were picking, right? So we got the 28th pick, the 60th pick, and the 92nd pick. And when I looked on the draft board, the 28th player available is actually one of my first guys. I was like, oh, okay, I'll look this guy up. He's a D end. I want a D end. This is working great. His name is Logan Hall.
Yes.
He is a defensive end from Houston.
Yep.
This guy is big. He's fast. He uses his hands. He can play the 3 technique. He can play the 5 technique. He is 6'6", 280 pounds. He can do a kip up. A kip up is when you're laying on your back and you can kick yourself up. It's called a kick up, kip up. There's a lot of names for it. He's 280 pounds and he can do that. I'm like, oh, shit. And he has 2 blocked field goals in his career. So he has a special teams impact. And he has 8 sacks and 20 and a half tackles for loss. This guy would just be a dream next to Kenny Clark. He could play inside, play outside. Like, this is the guy right here.
He's the guy that I have for D end as well, and he's billed as like a raw pass rusher. And you know who the last guy was discussed as a raw prospect, and we drafted him?
Who's that?
Rashawn Gary.
Yes.
He was described as a raw prospect.
Yeah, dude. There was a play on his highlight reel. Courtney, I will not be trying to kip up because it'll just be me just jumping from my back to my back again.
It would be like a fish out of water. I feel like what Jake would look like. He'd just be flopping. It would just be his head going up, and then his legs going up, and then his head going up.
8 muscles. I'd pull all my muscles. I'm going to be 30 years old.
I'd take the over.
Me too.
I'll take the over.
If you double that, I'll still take the over. But anyways, this guy had a play where he ran a running back down the field, 20 yards down the field. He was fast, and he caught him. It wasn't just like the running back was juking and doing all this stuff, and that's like he caught him from behind. And I'm like, yeah, this is the guy, Logan Hall.
That's the kind of guy you put across from Dean Lowry, and you say, okay, Dean, you just don't let anything past you. This guy's gonna go get people.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
I agree.
So I have the same one for D end.
That's a smart man.
All right, next position and player. Who you got?
So I didn't really put them in order, but on my sheet I have tight end second. And, we want Ferg. I would absolutely be okay with Jake Ferguson. He's rated as a 6th overall tight end and going into this draft. He's the 99th overall player, actually. Yep. So he'd be right around our 3rd round pick for value.
I would, if he's in the 4th round, that's where I want.
Oh, yeah, easily. The guy that I have is Jalen Weidermeyer. He's a tight end from Texas A&M.
All right.
He just has deep threat ability. He has rack ability. He commands the middle of the field. He has great hands. The only downfall, but he's another, we just had someone on and he was talking about, big plays and going downfield and giving Rodgers more weapons. This is what this guy could be. He played wide receiver in high school. So then he transitioned to tight end, and he's the 47th overall prospect. He ran a 4.7 40, and I compared that to one of my favorite Packer players of all time. I know he's not everybody's, but I used to love Jermichael Finley. Jermichael Finley ran a 4.6, and he was 6'5", 247. Jalen is around that size. He's 6'6". He's a big guy, and I think he'd look good with Aaron Rodgers.
So my tight end pick, and if you're talking about the way that you like your guy, I told you the guy that I had was from a random university. Mm-hmm. My tight end is from Coastal Carolina.
Okay.
His name is Isaiah Likely. He has great hands. He's improved as a blocker as he's gone on. I would encourage you to look up Isaiah Likely from Coastal California. He's already I already want him on the Packers. So
all right. I'm going to look him up.
One other guy that I would say could be a potential good fit for the Packers is Greg Dulcich from UCLA. He's really fundamental. He kind of reminds me of Robert Tonyan. So if the Packers were unable to bring him back, I would say Greg Dulcich could be a potential option. He's, like I said, very similar to Tonyan is what he reminded me of looking him up. But Your last position, who are you looking at?
All right, offensive tackle. And, Big Ten fans, Wisconsin fans, we play Minnesota every year. They have a right tackle. His name is Daniel Fa'alele. I had to learn how to say that name because I'm not going to let you show me up this year. Fa'alele. He is 6'9", 380 pounds. And this guy is strong. I was reading an article on him when he was getting recruited. He was 17 years old and he wore a size 18. This guy's
How much does he weigh?
380. Dude, you look him up. He doesn't look 380. That's the thing. He's just
Jesus.
gigantic. He is a massive human. And when I watched one highlight film, and I believe it was about 8 minutes long. It was like the third video down on YouTube. And he was going against Ohio State, and they were trying to put a speed rusher on him, right? You're thinking big, he's going to be slow. He's got great feet. This is a guy that I would draft in the second round, but he has first round, upside. And this guy is going to turn into like a really good right tackle, in my opinion. And the question I wanted to pose to you, say you have a 6'9", 380-pound right tackle, right? And he's leading the way. Would you rather tackle Aaron Jones, speed and shifty, or would you rather tackle A.J. Dillon? Remember, you got 6'9", 380 in front of you. Which running back are you more looking forward to? The answer is neither, by the way, because you're going to get ran over or you're going to get ran by. So, I want him. He's my first-round pick, honestly. That's who I want in the first round. I think he would be awesome.
So I've seen a couple mock drafts. We haven't even done any mock drafts ourselves yet because we haven't done our full draft prep. But a guy that I'm seeing around where the Packers are picking is Jahan Dotson. Badgers fans should be familiar with him because he tore the Badgers up. He's a wide receiver from Penn State. He had like 4 super deep plays, and he finished with like 5 catches for like 105 yards and a touchdown against the Packers or against the Badgers. But he's fast. He's got decent size. He's one of those guys that would be, a potential playmaker on the wide receiver position. So right now, Jahan Dotson is a guy that I would be looking at. Wide receiver is definitely going to be probably outside of Aaron Rodgers, probably the widest discussed position for the Packers. Even after Davante Adams' decision comes down, they're still going to be looking because the conversation is so much. Aaron Rodgers only targeted Davante Adams in the 49ers game. What are the Packers going to do to give guys more targets for Rodgers that he feels that he can go to? Brad, that's a question. If we traded Rodgers to Denver with the number 9 pick, who are we taking? I'll get back to you on that one. That's a question that I haven't really pondered because of the way that I feel about Aaron Rodgers, but I can look into that as a potential, what if scenario. That's an interesting question.
So we're gonna be doing. I'll handle this. We're gonna be doing a draft episode, right? So we're gonna plan it. We're gonna do our regular scheduled weekly episode, and we'll do just a draft episode, and we use a draft, generator, and we will probably, we'll throw that into a scenario where we trade Aaron Rodgers, we get the 9th pick, and we'll just kind of work through that. And if we trade up to the 9th pick, we're taking a quarterback or a wide receiver.
We're not taking a quarterback. We're taking a wide receiver. I would agree with wide receiver. We're not taking a quarterback.
I would not put it past them. I'm just saying. I would not put it past them.
Not in this draft.
Well, who says they don't go get the Pittsburgh quarterback? Everybody's talking about him. He's going to be around that range.
He's going to be like the 30th pick.
I've been seeing mid first, man. Honestly, because
I could see Tampa Bay taking him at like 29.
You think he'll fall that far? I don't know. I've been seeing mid. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, that's conversation for another day, I guess. We'll find out. Quarterbacks usually go high. That's all I'm saying. Their demand is high.
Look at Trubisky.
He got drafted second overall.
This isn't a quarterback-heavy draft. In the Dane Brugler is the guy that I like to look for. He's from The Athletic for draft stuff. His top 100 as of the 19th, so that's Saturday, has 14 wide receivers, 17 edge rushers, and 4 tight ends in the top 100. So that's 35 out of 100 at just those 3 positions. So if me personally, I'm either going wide receiver. If somebody like, say, Chris Olave was available at the 9 spot, that might be where I go. or one of the edge rushers, because there's a lot of good edge rushers in this draft.
True. Oh, man. I don't even want to think about a scenario where we trade Rodgers or Denver. I'd be so pissed. Oh, my God.
I still just can't see it. I really don't see it happening. I mean, I don't see Aaron Rodgers being okay with being like, guys, I'm going to retire. Do you want to trade me to Denver and then I'll retire after you get your trade done? Like, Rodgers isn't that guy to help you fleece Denver for no reason. So, I don't see a scenario where Aaron Rodgers wears a Broncos jersey.
Ugh. I've been seeing it enough with people putting it all over the internet. I'll say that.
All right. So what was your impression of the Rich Bisaccia hire?
Wow. Obviously, all good. I can't see a scenario where you can't see a scenario Rodgers in Denver. I can't see a scenario where our special teams could be any worse than it is, Yeah. So, you look at his ranks from just the last 4 years, and yes, before that, he had a lot of success with the Cowboys. In 2018, he had the Raiders at 19th. In 19, he had the Raiders at 25th. 20, he had them at 16th. And in 2021, last year, they were 11th in the special teams rankings. So you go anywhere in that area, and you're thinking the Packers probably win that game against San Francisco, and we're playing the Rams in the NFC Championship game. And then who knows? Who knows what happens? The Rams have to come into the cold. We kind of own the Rams. Who knows what happens after that? But I think it was a great hire, and we'll wait for the next question. But I don't think that it fixes. I don't think it fixes it right away.
Him himself does not fix special teams, and that's part of why I like the answer that Andy Herman gave, where he's talking about the restaurant, and just fixing one person in your restaurant doesn't turn your restaurant around. It can help, and it can begin, to change. Culture is definitely something that you can bring in, but just changing the coordinator itself doesn't help. But for me, what I liked about this hire is that he is loved by his player. He's loved by his players, and the Packers just recently brought in a coordinator who has been loved by his players, and that's Joe Barry. Joe Barry is loved by his players. He cares about his players. He's personal with his players. That's the kind of guy you want to have here, not just an in-house hire who we brought up just because he's been around for a long time. So I like the hire, and it's a beginning of fixing something.
Yes.
So with that, how do you feel personnel-wise? What kind of fixes can the Packers make?
Well, Herman brought up a lot of great points, and you definitely have to have guys that just love playing special teams, right? I think you have to just find those guys that love playing special teams, if that's late draft picks. I mean, me and you have talked about Jack Sanborn from the Packers. He's a guy that I think could turn in. If he doesn't, he has great instincts, so he could be a starting linebacker. I don't know, but maybe he just loves running and hitting people. You put him in the right position, and that's what I'm expecting from Bisaccia, is to put people in the right position, and then you get the right horses. And Sanborn could be a guy that turns into that. He's going to be a late draft pick. He just loves running into people. You just tell him, hey, you run this line, and you run into him as hard as you can, and we could do that. The thing that I still don't understand, and I hope this definitely gets fixed, why in the hell is Tyler Lancaster trying to block on a field goal? I still don't understand that. You keep all these backup offensive linemen.
Yep.
We draft all these 6th-round linemen, these 4th-round linemen that don't even play, and you have your defensive tackle, a backup defensive tackle, blocking on a field goal in the playoffs. That makes zero sense. That absolutely makes zero sense to me. Oh my God, just talking about that damn game just pisses me off. But I think, you just got to find the right players. If we end up with a Matthew Slater, I'll literally throw a party because we need a Matthew Slater.
Andy brought up a guy named Chris Banjo. I'd like to see the Packers grab somebody to be a gunner. A guy that I would propose for that is a guy that I wanted to see make the team last year is Kabion Ento. Put him on the roster. This is something Andy Herman brought up Vernon Scott as a guy who's kept on the roster. We talked about this with the Bucks last week. You are in a win now mode. You are not in a position to be trying to hold on to guys just to develop them. I saw somebody bring this up when the Bucks signed Javante Carter. They're like, oh, why are we grabbing this guy when we could grab a G League guy to put on the roster and develop him? The Bucks are not in a position to develop. The championship window is open. Now is not the time to worry about developing guys. Now is the time to be all in. This is why I've been saying for probably 3 years now that the Packers need to be okay with potentially parting with some draft picks. Yeah. I get that we love our draft picks. Jake and I love doing draft prep. We love doing mock drafts. You got to be okay with parting with a pick here once in a while.
Man,
the Rams just mortgaged the hell out of their future to go and get Von Miller. Obviously, they brought in Odell Beckham Jr., but that they didn't give up any draft capital for that. But they did it to get Jalen too. They did it to get Jalen. They did it to get Stafford.
Yeah, and Stafford.
They shipped out their future picks.
Yeah.
But you know what they just did? They just won a damn Super Bowl. They literally just showed you that going all in works. It can work for you.
Man, do you remember? Who am I thinking of? He was on Jacksonville. He got traded to Baltimore. Calais Campbell. He got traded a couple years ago for a 6th rounder, and I was so upset. I've been wanting a freaking defensive lineman next to Kenny for years, man. And I'm like, Calais Campbell is one of the best defensive ends in a 3-4 system in the entire NFL. He got traded for a 6th rounder. Don't you think that move would have made a difference in Green Bay? Yeah, we wouldn't have Tyler Lancaster out there for 40 snaps. Yeah, Calais Campbell's a great human on top of being a giant person that's good at football. But those are the type of moves that you have to be okay to make. Like, let's go get the damn thing. Stop talking about it. Actions, man. Actions.
Yeah. Brad asked, do you use starters on special teams?
Why not?
My answer would be, yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
If you're going to go for it, go for it. Stop faking this love, man. Show me that you care.
Especially in the playoffs.
Yes, go. Just go for it.
I get during the season, which now is a 17-game season, that, you got to have some depth. But game to game, you don't need to be keeping 3 deep at every position just because.
Yeah, and Tyler Lancaster, he's not on the roster anymore. I'm pretty sure he's a free agent, but he better not be out there blocking for field goals anymore. I will lose my shit.
Yeah, offensive line is one where you keep depth, but you don't need to have 5 safeties on the roster. You don't need to have 4 safeties on the roster. I'd be good with 3. You don't need to have fucking 5 cornerbacks on your roster.
You might need 5 corners. I can see 5 corners. It's a passing league, so I can see 5 corners. I don't know about 1,000 defensive linemen because you want some to block. Oh my god, I'm so
we talked about it last year. Even 6 wide receivers for a team that runs a lot of 2 tight end sets.
And
you don't need 6 wide receivers.
And runs the ball a lot, I don't know.
We talked about 4 tight ends. We were right on Sternberger getting cut. We were right on that. But you don't need to be so deep at some of those positions that, it mortgages your special teams. Now, one of my potential personnel fixes, this is a guy I called for last year when we did a free agent special, is go get Byron Pringle. He's a free agent again. Go get him to return punts. I forgot who it was, but they were talking about Amari Rodgers. And you put a guy in a situation who is a rookie trying to memorize a playbook, and now you say, oh, here, go do this for us too. Get a guy in just to return punts. Like Jamal Agnew, he's signed for another 2 years, but there's guys out there that can do this and nothing else. I think his name is Brandon Powell for the Rams. They brought him in to return punts, and that's it. Go get Byron Pringle. He can return kicks for you until Kylan Hill is back from his injury. He can be a great punt returner instead of just getting 5 yards a return. I think it was Tom Grassi that brought that up.
And he catches 8 passes a year, so that's perfectly fine.
Make him a specialist. The Packers need some specialists on special teams, not just 4th string guys out there on special teams. Agreed. Stop throwing this unit together. Put it together. That's the impact that I'm hoping Bisaccia can make, is that he's not just going to take what you give him. He's going to say, these are the guys that I want. Mm-hmm. You guys are going to come and do something and not just be here and try not to let a guy score or try not to fumble the ball or, try not to, step out at the 15-yard line on a kickoff return. it shouldn't be in a position where you're trying not to screw up. Go succeed.
Yeah. Like, show your impact, you know? Like, all these guys work their whole lives to be in the NFL. Like, go make plays, man. Just go make plays. That's at the end of the day.
All right.
Yeah, keep going.
Should the Packers keep Bojorquez and Crosby?
I say yes to both. Everybody wants Crosby gone, and you know, Herman brought up that it's hard to punt. I think it's also hard to kick. I mean, you're thinking you do your couple steps, but the ground is always different. You know, it's always different when you do that final step. And then, like I brought up 100 times, they changed long snappers, so then his timing got changed. It's a new holder for the year, and you know, with a new holder and then a new long snapper in the middle of the year, now that's a whole different process. It's like they just really just pulled the rug from under Crosby, in my opinion. And he wasn't great. I'm not just sticking up for him because I like him, but I think it is hard to kick overall in Green Bay. I mean, the wind, the weather, everything that's, you know, counted for everything.
What is one of the biggest things when you talk about Wisconsin weather, especially in the winter? What is like one of the main things people talk about?
Well, it's cold for one, in my opinion.
And the wind chill.
Yeah, wind chill.
So it's cold and it's windy, which makes it colder. You know, that's a hard job to do.
It is.
That said, yes, absolutely keep Bojorquez. And then Crosby, whatever they decide to do with Crosby, honestly, I'm fine with it. They did just sign another kicker from used to be on the Texans. So I'm fine with whatever they decide to do. Whether it's restructure and keep him, totally fine with that. If it's Crosby retires and, you know, they're going to have the guy that they've been protecting on the practice squad all year and this new guy, have him be on the practice squad,
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with that too. You know, whatever they decide to do, I'm fine with on the kicker front.
What if they draft one?
Better be like a 6th or 7th rounder.
You don't want a first round kicker?
No, I don't want Roberto Aguayo on our fucking team.
Who did
And the
that?
Bears brought him in. That was funny as hell.
Was that the Buccaneers or the Rams?
Yes, it was. That was the Buccaneers that did that.
I remember that, yeah. Well.
Bold strategy, Cotton. See if it pays off for him.
No. No, it did not.
All right. How would you gauge Jordan Love's readiness level?
Well, I mean, there's no gauge because he's only played one full game on the road, in one of the hardest stadiums to play, and against on the other sideline is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So I mean, you throw a guy in that situation. Do you really expect him to just go nuts? I mean, the defense played amazing. I won't lie, but I don't know. He's not ready, and there's going to be a really big learning curve, bigger than Rodgers' learning curve. But I think, you know, we're going to get to the Tom Clemens question pretty soon here. I think that's where Tom can really, really make his impact, man. He worked with Brett Favre. He worked with Aaron Rodgers, obviously, groomed him up to what he is now.
Yep.
Now, he's not going to take all the credit, but he definitely helped. And, you know, people may forget, but he was a big part in that Matt Flynn record-setting day against, I know the Lions were terrible, but he was a big part of that. So, I mean, he's shown that he could work with quarterbacks, he could work with less and get more, and Jordan Love might be that guy. And I am on the train where I still think Jordan Love can be good. I'm not saying he's going to be an all-pro or a Pro Bowl or anything like that, but in a world where Mac Jones is making the Pro Bowl, yes, I think I think Jordan Love can be Mac Jones level. That's all I'm saying.
I would rather give Jordan Love some time than I saw somebody earlier suggest Mitchell Trubisky. I would rather see what Jordan Love's upside could be, because, you know, he came out as a raw prospect. He was compared as a Patrick Mahomes type player. Patrick Mahomes, and he came out was compared to an Aaron Rodgers type player. You don't expect, you know, guys to turn into these guys. What that is meant to do is to give you an idea of what their potential skill set could be. So Mitchell Trubisky, you know what he is. If you're throwing farther than 20 yards, you might as well not. And like, he can kind of run. That's what you got out of Trubisky. Jordan Love has a cannon. He can move. And if you put him in this system, this West Coast system that predicates on building the run game, and then working off of that, you still have Jordan Love or AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones behind him. So you already have a good baseline in your running game. And then, let's say the Packers traded Rodgers to Denver, and that's the situation where we're discussing Jordan Love. Isaac, when Andy Herman was on here, he brought up Mariota as potentially a guy to just create a quarterback competition. I threw out Tyler Huntley, as guys just to kick some tires and make a competition. But you can put Jordan Love in this system and say we're going to build our offense like the Browns, and we're going to run the ball 35 times a game, and we have a good offensive line and 2 good running backs. Try and stop us.
Yeah.
It can work.
I think Winston's going back to New Orleans, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's honestly, I don't love the idea of Jameis Winston. He seems a guy to be on a pass first offense. He has a 5,000 yard season, so he's got that, but he also has a 30 interception season. So
Rodgers hasn't thrown 30 interceptions in the last 5 years. I'd be willing to bet. I'm not even looking at stats. If you added his interceptions for the last 5 years, somebody in the comments, please do this. I don't think he has 30 picks. It's going to be close, though. It's going to be close, but I don't know.
Yeah, he's had like 5, 4, 6,
I gotta look.
5.
I gotta look.
All right.
Keep going.
So the 2 things with Love, if he's not traded, I'm okay with holding on to him behind Rodgers, giving him another year behind Rodgers to be, he's going to be the preseason quarterback and he's going to be the backup. We'll see what Tom Clements can do if he could potentially repeat his success there. And then, if Rodgers comes back, I would say you shop Jordan Love for a 3rd-round pick. Maybe Houston, maybe Atlanta, maybe Tampa Bay, Indianapolis, I've heard is a potential if they want to move on from Carson Wentz. You shop him for a 3rd, and if somebody offers you a 4th, somebody offers you, say, a 4th and a 6th, or, if somebody offers you straight up just a 3rd-round pick, sure. But what you do then, you take around, and you flip that 3rd-round pick, and you trade it to whoever wants it, and you get more players that can contribute now.
I'm with it. So I looked up real quick, right? And you can actually go the last 6 years, and he only has 20.
I was going to say 6, and I didn't.
And he only has 27 interceptions in the last 6 years. You got to go back to 2015, which is crazy, and then he'll have over 30. But that is nuts.
Jameis did that in a season. It's 2 picks a game, basically.
Dude, looking at this, Rodgers hasn't thrown double-digit interceptions since 2010. And he's only done it twice in his career. The first year as a starter and in 2010. Other than that, he's thrown under double digits. The man is a monster.
Brad asked, what do you think Rodgers is worth in the trade market? For me, I would say 2 firsts, a prospect, and a starter.
I think they're going to go for more draft capital, to be honest with you, because we're not going to have any money. So I'm going to say 2 firsts, a second, and a 3rd. 2 firsts, a second, and a 3rd, I would say.
Right.
I was going to say 2 firsts and 2 seconds, but 2 firsts, 2 seconds is a huge haul, so I'll say a 3rd.
In my mind, I pictured Denver. I pictured getting 2 firsts, Bradley Chubb, and one of their stable of wide receivers, whether it's KJ Hamler, Cortland Sutton, or Tim Patrick.
I mean, Tim Patrick would be real nice. He's actually underrated as hell, and he's a big guy. But Cortland Sutton would be badass because I wanted him last year.
Yeah, I know you did.
He's a good player.
So yeah, that was my thought. Was 2 firsts, Bradley Chubb, and one of their wide receivers was my thought.
Why not? I agree with Isaac. Try to get Brandon Cooks. I mean, they just got it.
Oh God, I wanted Brandon Cooks last year. I wanted him so bad.
Any way around it, the Packers, Gunakus, we gotta just go for it. You gotta go all in. You just gotta head first, dive into this thing, and we just gotta go get a ring.
I don't remember where the conversation came up, but somebody said to offer Jordan Love for Brandon Cooks straight up, and I was like, I think I'd do that.
You gotta take into consideration what's gonna happen with Watson first, because
Yeah.
nobody's talked about the legal stuff with Watson for how long. Everybody's too involved in Aaron Rodgers' relationship status, or that he has a broken toe, or he takes weird shits. I don't know what's going on with that. But this guy's literally out here sexually assaulting women, and we're not talking about it.
What I heard is that he's going to settle. So he might be good to go this year.
Oh, really? Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, Cole Beasley, he's another one of those slot receivers, a possession receiver. That's what I've wanted for the Packers, with a Jamison Crowder. Like a dream free agent would be Chris Godwin, but I don't know how much of a wizard Russ Ball is with the cap. I mean, he's created $14 million off of just restructuring 2 contracts. So, that's a quarter of the Packers cap situation solved in 2 restructures.
True.
Do you think the Packers use the franchise tag?
I think, kind of like what Goot was saying, I think it's going to be all on opportunity based, in my opinion. If the opportunity presents itself, yeah, he will. If he's forced to, if his hand is forced to use it. But I do think, come on, let's be honest. Rodgers and Adams are talking, right? And Adams knows exactly what Rodgers is thinking. Rodgers knows exactly what Devontae's thinking. So at the end of the day, I'm going to say that he has to use it because I think Devontae's going to want to go back out with his buddy Derek Carr. That's really what I think he wants to do.
Yeah, and that's why when we kind of opened the show, I proposed maybe if Gutekunst can work out, hey, we're going to give Aaron Rodgers a 2-year deal. Do you want a 2-year deal? So you can leave when Rodgers leaves.
At that point, he's only 31.
Exactly. And you can go get a 4-year deal at that age.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what I would do if I were Gutekunst. Obviously, all I am is a podcaster. I don't have, I'm not a GM, but
right.
I really think that's what they want to do. I think they want to leave this team at the same time. That's how I feel.
I don't see a way where they get a long-term deal. I just don't see a way where they sign Devontae to a 5-year deal because we just don't have the money. It's not that I don't think he wouldn't mind.
You would have to backload
signing.
the hell out of it, which is possible, but I just don't see it as particularly likely.
We're going to bring back Hoodie Jones?
Dude, Hoodie James Jones was a boss.
I'll tell you what. He is Rodgers' main hype man, and he must be so disrespected that he's not part of the Friday night crew. I just got to say that right now. I thought about that the other day when Rodgers made his post about his Friday night crew and stuff.
He's on TV. He's probably in LA. He's not in the Green Bay circle,
No, I know, but he never brings up James Jones, and James Jones literally just does nothing but love Aaron Rodgers.
All right, what do you think Tom Clements does for Rodgers and Love?
Well, I've already touched on it. He was the quarterback coach from 2006 to 2011. Then he was our offensive coordinator from 12 to 14. Between him being the quarterback coach and OC from 06 to 14, Rodgers got 2 MVPs, a Super Bowl MVP, and he just went from an unknown guy to one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He also was Brett Favre's one of his most efficient seasons, not one of his best seasons. I would say one of his more efficient seasons. In 2007, we made it to the NFC Championship game that year too. And like I said, the Matt Flynn career day. He got Matt Flynn paid.
Yeah, he did.
He's really the responsibility for Matt Flynn getting paid. Think about it. He was also our assistant head coach 15 and 16. So he's been around. He's familiar with Green Bay. He knows the building. He knows most of the people that work there. Some new faces, new GM, new coach, all that kind of stuff. But, Rodgers is still there. He's going to know how to pick Rodgers' brain. He's going to know how to motivate him. The thing that I'm liking is he's going to know how to develop a young quarterback and the time that it's going to take. So say they bring Rodgers back for 2 more years like you're proposing. You give Tom Clements 2 years with Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Jordan Love will be ready. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's the part that I like, is that you give him a chance to repeat his success that he's done from the Brett Favre to the Aaron Rodgers area. And we've, the era that we had that, we've talked about it. The Packers are kind of repeating this trend. They did it. They didn't need to pick Aaron Rodgers when they did. So many people were, why are we drafting a quarterback? We have Brett Favre. Look what happened. Mm-hmm. If you talk about how many first round picks hit, why not take a flyer on trying to repeat what you've done and take your success from 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play to 45 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play? That's a what-if question that I would pay a first-round pick for.
Yeah, I would too.
If it doesn't work out, look how many other first-round picks haven't worked out. That's just part of the NFL. Not all first-round draft picks pan out.
If Jordan Love doesn't work out, the Packers will still end up with a franchise quarterback for the Chicago Bears. So there's that.
Yeah,
we can always hang our hat on that.
Fact.
Yeah.
That's just a dumpster fire. I think I already know your answer to this question. We've talked about it a bunch of times. Yeah. Campbell or Douglas?
Well, the cool pick would pick Douglas because Douglas was awesome. Pick sixes are very exciting. The logical pick, Devondre Campbell. Is it sexy that he makes a lot of tackles inside a scrum or he stops the running back for only gaining 2 yards? No. To a little kid that's just learning the game, that's not exciting to them. I mean, my stepson is 9 years old, and he's always like, why are they running the ball and they only got 3 yards? Well, buddy, you don't want to sit here and listen to me talk for 3 hours, so I can't explain why they're doing that. But Rasul Douglas, he sees him get a pick six, automatically he's awesome to him. But I'll say Campbell is the easy choice to grown men who understand football.
He's a bigger position of need.
Yes.
You know, that 3-yard run, what that does is it gets Alan Lazard matched up with a linebacker, and then he goes and scores a touchdown.
Yep, I have to explain all the time, you know, to my girlfriend, and oh, God, I do not want to talk about Aaron Rodgers shitting, okay? I should have texted Tyler that, but we're not talking about that.
Yeah, we're just going to skip over that, sorry.
We're not talking about that. I don't care.
I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in this equation here. I think Rasul Douglas is going to be back no matter what because he wants to be here.
Yeah, I agree.
He wants to be here.
Yeah. I think Douglas will be back too. That might be part of the reason why I say Campbell, because I think Douglas is already coming back because he loves it here. But if they could get Campbell and Douglas, if we could bring the band back, right? And Coot really was teasing, man, when he was talking. He's like, I don't see a reason why we have to get rid of a bunch of people. I'm like, don't make that a possibility in my brain, you son of a bitch.
Like, we know we have, like, Russ Ball is here. Like, it's possible.
And then for them to be able to add pieces to that and have a special teams, I'm like, just give me one more. Give me one more title. I'll stop bitching. I swear. I promise. I'll stop bitching. Give me one more.
It's possible. Like, the way that they can work and extend guys, like, We're also, in addition to being on Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams' watch, we're also on extend Jair Alexander watch.
Yeah, we are.
If they pull that creates flexibility there. They could restructure Bakhtiari, which they haven't done yet, which I would fully expect to be happening.
Yeah,
That's going to create a huge chunk of change.
Yeah, that'll be a
Bakhtiari got a fat ass signing bonus. So
just sit on his ass because he's hurt all goddamn year too. It's not that I don't love him, but
I mean, you know, there's ways they can make this work
and
potentially bring back one of the Smith brothers, or you know, I've heard that Whitney Merciless would be willing to be back on a team-friendly deal. Like, there's options here.
I'll tell you this: if I would not mind Casey Hayward, by the way, he played very well. He played very well for the Raiders last year.
He did.
I might be the only one that doesn't really care if Za'Darius is back. Personally, I think he acted like
for him to be gone already.
I think he acted like a baby when he didn't get the captain. Like, dude, you gotta think about it. Think logically. Rodgers and Crosby are always captains. It made sense to make Jair a captain on defense. It made sense to make Devontae a captain. I mean, that really only leaves you a one spot left. I'm sorry that you didn't get it. It's okay, man. And then, you know, he had the back injury, and he could, you know, for him to come back for the playoffs kind of makes me feel like he could have came back earlier, to be honest with you. But I don't know. I mean, would I welcome him back? Yeah, obviously I would, because he's a great player. He has the highest sack rate per game in Packers history. He's at about almost 1 per game. But I would almost much rather have Preston back because he sets the edge in the run.
We talked about that after the Packers season was over, that between those two, that Preston is a better all-around linebacker.
Yes. He's a football player.
Yeah, Za'Darius is the better pass rusher, but Preston is a better all-around linebacker.
Yep.
And Preston Smith He gets a gold star for taking the pay cut that he did to help work the salary cap. I give Preston Smith so much credit for taking his like $9 million a year salary down to less than $2 million full of incentives, which he hit most of.
Mm-hmm.
I give Preston Smith so much credit for that. That was kind of an out of the nowhere cap, situation. That's why one of the reasons we call Russ Ball a wizard, but I give Preston Smith a lot of credit for that. So I would be good with bringing Preston Smith back across from Rashawn Gary, and then bringing Merciless in on a veteran minimum to back them up.
I agree. So since Isaac's in the comments here, other than Drake Landon, because I know that's going to be your answer, if you had to draft somebody with the first pick, 28th pick, Isaac, I want to know who you would take. I don't know if you heard Tyler and I, but we both had a defensive end as our first player that we would go after. It was the same guy, actually. Logan Hall, defensive end. I'm wondering what you're thinking, Isaac. I want to pick your brain. Anybody else in the comments, feel free. I am very excited, dude. Like I said, I had a hard time kind of shutting my laptop because I was like, dude, I could just sit here for 8 hours and just watch people play college football at 8 minutes at a time, I just loved it, man. I am going to look up Tyler's tight end after the episode, and I want Tyler to look up my tight end, Jalen Weidermeyer. I think he can end up being a good player, man. He might end up, and this kind of sucks because I don't think he's used the right way, but he reminds me of David Njoku for the Browns, where he's just kind of that tweener, where he's a wide receiver, tight end. He's not great at blocking, but you just see the potential oozing out of him, You're just like, man, this guy can be good. All right.
Isaac wants Davis, the linebacker from Georgia.
Davis. No, is that the big fella? Is that the big giant 99?
I thought that was the linebacker.
No, the linebacker. What the hell's his name? God damn it. No, the linebacker is.
We haven't gotten into draft prep yet.
He's he's going mid round from what I hear. Yeah, Drake Jackson as well. Who's that? Is that a corner?
I don't know.
Drake Jackson, USC. Let's see. What is this guy? Oh, he's a big fella. 6'4", 250. He's only 20 years old. I'm on board. I'm already on board. He's only 20. I'm already on board. You can get 10 years out of this guy and he's 30. I'm already on board. Seriously. Okay. God, he looks like a baby. Jesus. Man. I just want to talk Packers all day now. God damn it.
Dude, we're gonna have Packers episodes coming up.
I know. I'm so excited.
We're working on doing it potentially another live episode like we did last year. So
love it. Very excited. Oh God.
All right. To wrap this up, what else do you want to say? Anything else about the Packers before we move into basketball?
We have a very important 2-week stretch. Less than 2 weeks now. We're gonna hear the news. March 8th, one way or the other, we're going to find out what's happening with Devontae. Yeah. We're going to find out what's happening with Aaron Rodgers, and everything goes off of those two players. If they bring those two back, I think we're just going to find out if we're going to be a 5-win team or a 13-win team with a chance to win the Super Bowl. That's all I got to say.
And Jake and I will start doing draft prep soon, so that's always fun.
Yes, it's the best. Honestly, one of my favorite parts of the whole year.
I agree. What's not fun is the Bucks 76ers game. I mentioned it that Giannis was the team had such a conscious thing of wanting to go into the All-Star break on a high note and wanting to try to win some of these games against physically and mentally defeated teams. And the Bucks looked like a physically drained team against the 76ers. Like missing shots short, like just bad turnovers, just bad shot selection. What did you see with the Bucks and the 76ers? I mean, we don't have to spend a ton of time on this because the 76ers are going to look different next week, but
yeah. I just saw a 76ers team that came in here and wanted to prove a point. People have been bringing it up all year, and it's been a rule our entire lives. When you're the champ, people come at you a little bit harder. And Giannis tried his best to score he tried his best in the fourth quarter. He scored a lot. He did a lot in that fourth quarter to kind of make it a game. And give us the lead at some points, but Embiid was just too much. We had nobody to stop Embiid. And for all the people that are like, put Giannis on him. Dude, Embiid gets a lot of foul calls, okay? There's a reason that Embiid doesn't guard Giannis because Giannis gets foul calls, and Giannis doesn't guard Embiid for 48 minutes. The teams don't want those guys to have 3 fouls in the first quarter. And that's exactly what would have happened. We did see it at the end of the game, which made sense to me. Like, okay, you need to make a stop, Giannis, go on him. But we have no Brook, we have no Allen, we have no Pat Connaughton, we have no backup point guard. I mean, Wigginton's still the backup point guard, and he's been exciting. It's exciting to see those young guys do good like that, but is it really what's going to happen in the playoffs? No. The Bucks are going to make moves. They're going to get a veteran guard. The thing that I saw is the Bucks had no inside defense. Again, the same thing that we saw against the Suns. They were just small, and Embiid knew that. He went at them. He's not afraid to use his size, and he's going for that MVP, man. That's all I got to say.
I had that written down.
He really looks
like
like
MVP.
He wants the MVP. He really does. And he knows that if he gets it, he's going to be Shaq's favorite player, and they're going to talk about him every couple days, and that's how it's going to go. Other than that, once James Harden gets there, that team will not be as good as they are. That's all I
agree.
Say.
That team is going to go from having the ball in Joel Embiid's 50% of the time to having the ball in James Harden's hands 50% of the time.
It'll go from the only time Embiid will get the ball is off a pick and roll. I mean, they'll post him up a little bit, but 90% of the time it's going to be off the pick and roll, the pick and pop, because Harden, you don't bring in James Harden without knowing he's going to dribble the goddamn air out of the basketball. Plain and simple.
And he's going to take some bad shots.
Yeah.
And now that he's not getting foul calls on his threes, he's going to have some 6 for 15 games.
Man, I mean,
he's like career low on shooting percentages this year. He's bad.
When the game slows down in the playoffs and the passing lanes get a little tighter and the shooting gets a little bit tougher, Harden doesn't perform.
Less foul calls.
Harden just doesn't perform in the playoffs. And I think Embiid, and Harden likes to talk back a little bit. I just don't see that marriage working out too well. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Honestly, you know what this is? I think Joel Embiid wants an MVP more than he wants to compete for a championship. I truly believe that because personally, I don't feel that even with James Harden, that Philadelphia is a threat.
No.
I would put them in the category with the Bulls of a team that's going to be good in the regular season and a second round exit.
Yep.
I could see, let's say Philadelphia ends up with a 2 seed and Brooklyn ends up with a 7 seed. I would pick Brooklyn probably in 5, maybe in 6 in that series.
Bro,
the Philadelphia would not beat Brooklyn in a 7-game series. They would not beat Milwaukee in a 7-game series. They would not beat Miami in a 7-game series. That's how I feel.
Okay, 2 things I want. I want Chicago, Milwaukee. I've been very boisterous about that. And now I want Philly and Brooklyn. That would be some good basketball, dude.
Dude, you'd have great content before you even get to the series.
Oh my God. Would that ever be just some great basketball? It would be very annoying to listen to ESPN because Simmons and Harden have played for neither team. And they still talk about it, dude. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
But
Harden, I guess, is supposed to make his debut tomorrow. So
be a great. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And the Bucks don't play till freaking Saturday against the Nets.
The Nets.
Yeah.
So for me, this Bucks game, it's just annoying. Like Fergman Korkmaz always plays good against the Bucks. He only had 13 points, but he was 5 for 8 and 3 for 4 on threes. Fucking Georges Niang doubled his season average.
Yep.
He averages like 9.4 a game. He scored 18 and made 5 threes on 10 attempts.
Yeah.
It's just annoying. The second quarter showed me that the Bucks were ready for the All-Star break. They had a 12-point lead with 5 minutes left and were outscored 28-8 for the rest of the second quarter. They just weren't contesting jump shots and floaters. They're giving up, like they gave up an offensive rebound and a putback at the second half buzzer or at the second quarter buzzer. Like, that's just not a locked-in team. That's a team really showed me that they were ready for the All-Star break. They looked tired in the second half.
Yep.
Had a couple chances to tie and take the leads, but they looked like they just ran out of gas. Like Chris Middleton specifically, And it's looked like that for probably like the last week of the season. It looked like Chris Middleton is out of gas.
Yeah, they should have gave him a rest day. Honestly,
They
Shoulda gave him
should
a
have.
rest day.
They should have. I would have said, the day, what was Monday against Portland, like Giannis was out, like that was a late scratch, so I guess it's hard to predict that. But
Why not late scratch Middleton? Let him sit, man.
Yeah, Middleton needed the break.
And then he got blocked by Giannis in the All-Star game. What the hell, Giannis?
Hey, I mean, if you and I were on opposite teams in a pickup game and I blocked your shot, like I'd be excited about it.
I'd let you know. We're supposed to be boys,
I'd let you
man.
know. I'd let you know. I'd be like, get your shit out of here.
Yeah, I know you would.
All right. Only had 10 bench points from the Bucks. Philadelphia had 25. Korkmaz had 13 by himself. He outscored the Bucks bench by himself. The turnovers were down. The free throws were solid. So, I mean, there's still a couple of good takeaways. But DeAndre Bembry was one of the Bucks buyout signings. I saw somebody question why they held him out with a sore thumb. And my answer was, you are one game ahead of the All-Star break. What possible benefit could it be to rush a guy into one game when he's about to have a week and a half off?
Yeah, why not just keep him out and then get him more acclimated with the coaching staff, with the playbook?
When there's a potential injury involved, like why try to rush somebody into that situation that could potentially turn into a longer term situation when you already have a week and a half off after the one game?
I agree, 100%.
So totally fine with them holding him out. Same with Grayson Allen. Like, he's been dealing with his hip issue. Like, just let him sit out through the break. That gives him, and then ended up giving him like 2 full weeks because I think it was the Sacramento game that he didn't play the second half. And then he just sat out since then. Which is one of the reasons that I brought up the Javante Carter thing now, is looking ahead with the Bucks, is they signed Javante Carter, who is also released from Brooklyn, but it is what it is. Between Carter and Bembry, the Bucks are adding defense.
Yep.
Defense wins championships. So, I've saw people say, Gary Harris and Dennis Schroeder, they haven't been bought out yet. So the Bucks, you got to grab who's available. And trying to add a guy to the end of your bench just to try to develop him. The Bucks have some guys they can call up and down. Jordan Nwora is one of those guys. Mamu is one of those guys. I saw somebody say, why don't you guarantee Mamu's contract and keep him with your 14th roster spot? Because the Bucks need a backup point guard right now. They don't need a third string center.
Yeah, I agreed.
So, as long as George Hill is out, backup point guard is the biggest need on the Bucks. And Javante Carter can take care of the ball and dribble the ball. And he can play some really good defense. He was a 2-time All Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Twice. Yeah. So, more defense is what they did with Javante Carter. Looking up what's next. Saturday they play Brooklyn. Don't know if Dragic, Simmons, or KD are going to be playing. Steve Nash said it was a possibility that KD could have been back before the All-Star break, but they ultimately didn't decide to do that for similar reasons that we just discussed with other guys. Give them through the All-Star break. It gives them more time. So don't be surprised if KD plays. Don't be surprised if he doesn't either. Ben Simmons, it sounds like a maybe. And Goran Dragic was just signed, so that's probably also going to be a maybe. Out of those three, I'd say it's probably the most likely that Dragic plays out of those three. But, we have either potentially a Eastern Conference Finals worthy Brooklyn team or a 2 games under 500 Brooklyn team that they are right now. So kind of a question mark on that. And then Monday they're at home against Charlotte. They're kind of an underachieving team. I really thought they'd be better than they are, but they have some high flying guys. They have some entertaining guys. They have a pair of good guards. So when you question why the Bucks are bringing in a defensive minded point guard, next week they have to play Terry Rozier and LaMelo Ball.
Yeah. And
then obviously Miles Bridges is on that team. So
and they got
that
Harold,
team.
Man. They got a bunch of high flyers.
Well, I mean, he's not going to be a point guard, but you're not going to have a point guard guarding him. But that's where a guy like Serge Ibaka comes into the mix.
True.
So honestly, on that team, I've said this when we talked about them when the Bucks played them. I really think that their lack of success comes down to their coaching.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So speaking of coaching, this is a nice transition. Let's talk about the Badgers in Michigan. Do you want to talk about the game or the post game first?
We'll talk about the game, then the post game, because the game matters and why the post game happened, in my opinion.
I agree. All right, so it was crazy. The first 24 points of this game combined, all in the paint.
Yep.
This is a paint game. I don't know why Michigan went away from it later in the game, away from Dickinson, because he was absolutely eating in the paint.
Oh my god, it was so annoying going into this game. I was like, just don't let him get right shoulder. Literally every possession in the first half, there's like right shoulder, right shoulder. I'm like, are they serious? He's left-handed, and I was telling Chantel, my girlfriend, I was like, he's left-handed, and that's usually harder for people to like defend them because they're used to right-handed players. So left-handers have an advantage right away in the game. Yeah, left-handers, Jesus. Left-handers have an advantage in the game. Yeah, it comes out. Yeah. But yeah, they have an advantage, and he had 15 points in the first half off of that. He didn't have to get a lot of rebounds because he
was making everything because he was getting all wide open shots.
Right, but the craziest part of that first half was Vogt had a huge two-hand dunk, and then the second attempt he had was nuts.
He's like, I'm gonna try to dunk it from the circle inside the free throw line. It's like, I don't care. He's like I don't know if he watched Space Jam the night before, and he's like, dude, my arms were that long.
Yeah. Somebody called him like Space Jam Jordan or something. Oh my dude, he's just weird, man. Like
he looks like the Blue Monstar.
Dude, him shooting free throws he just looks uncomfortable every time he shoots.
Wait till we get to the Minnesota game and you hear who I compare him to.
Oh, I'm ready for that. Anyways, keep going with your first half analysis here.
The Badgers are lucky that Michigan was really cold in the first half. They had a lot of careless turnovers and some really bad shots. Like they play some tough defense, but when it comes down to like something like March Madness, you can't just rely on a team to shoot cold because March Madness is won by the hottest team. Obviously, they're all one game elimination, so the hottest team usually wins. I mean, you can't rely on other teams to shoot poorly to win.
True.
You can say the same thing with the Minnesota game. I mean, you don't want to get into these one possession games all the time. I'm ready to talk about the second half.
In the first half, I have a couple more things in the first half. Michigan out-rebounded the Badgers 23-13, so they were just getting every rebound. They were just quicker to the ball. The thing that you're talking about them being cold, they were 1 for 10 from three-point range, and the Badgers were 0 for 6. So the Badgers weren't shooting good, but Michigan was just hooking up some very, very bad shots, in my opinion. When they
kept shooting them, like what the?
Yeah, they could have just threw it down to Dickinson literally every possession.
Every single play.
He was getting right shoulder every single play. He was going to the same block, getting the same quality shot every possession. Why wouldn't you just let that ride? And Mikey, our Badger specialist, he predicted this a couple weeks ago. He's like, Dickinson's probably going to kill us. And I was just kind of like, I don't know. Vogt's pretty big, and Crowell's been improving while the season goes on. Well, Mikey was right in the first half, but the second half was a whole different story. What do you got?
And it starts with Dickinson. So he gets a dunk that ties the game at 33, and he's all like,
yeah, raise the roof, yeah.
Yeah, so that was part of a 7-0 run that Michigan went up 39-38. Crowell hit a 3 that kicked off a 14-1 run, and the run got as far as 21-3.
We went
in
crazy.
The second half. The Badgers went nuts after that.
Johnny Davis takeover.
Yeah. So it took Davison until his second shot in the second half before he scored. And it continues in the Minnesota game. I'm really, really hoping that this is like a slingshot where he's just pulling back and struggling, and that when we get to March Madness, it's just going to be boom, Brad Davison, and he's going to be back into those 15, 20-point games where he's making threes and getting to the free throw line and making all those and hyping up opposing team crowds and stuff. So I'm hoping that with this struggle that Brad Davison's going through, that it really catapults him into March Madness in a good way.
Kind of more of a hiccup and not a trend. It's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's been like a 4 or 5 game trend now.
Yeah.
But that said, Johnny Davis is everywhere. He's everywhere. He's such a good offensive player that he does not get credit for how good of a rebounder and defender he is.
Yeah, he's a great defensive player.
He is, dude, and he's an amazing rebounder. He goes and gets the ball. Like, he doesn't rebound like a guard. He rebounds like a power forward. He's like, no, I'm not going to grab this rebound because it bounced to me. He's like, I'm going to go get that rebound.
That's why
I love that mentality from him. That's going to get him drafted in top 5.
Man, hey, that's why I like that comparison to Wade. Think about Wade. He always felt bigger, and you know what? You know what number he was drafted? Number 5. That's all I'm saying, man. I like the comparison.
He gets just a little bit stronger. Like, I can totally see Dwayne Wade as a comparison.
I got a question for you. So there was 3 calls that I didn't like in this game, and I want to know what you think. First of all, the goaltend on Chucky. How bad was
blatant? That was blatant.
That was
blatant.
That's literally the video they show you when they're like, "This is a goaltend."
When the ball hits the backboard first, and somebody touches it, it's a goaltend. Literally, that's it. The ball touches the backboard, and if somebody touches it, it's a goaltend.
Now I want to give credit to Chucky because he was smart enough to know, like, I'm not going to be able to put the right spin on this ball to get this in. So he just put it off the backboard real quick because he knew the guy was there. I thought that was smart by Chucky. I want to give him credit for that. The charge on Johnny Davis, I know there was a makeup call, and they called a really bad one. Kind of the makeup for the Chucky not goaltend and the Johnny Davis charge, but that was a terrible call.
What I would say is both of those should be no calls. That's my opinion. Both of them should be no calls.
I mean, I'll agree with that, but the Johnny Davis one was just, dude, the guy clearly slid and he was jumping and he was just, and then people were like Michigan fans were like, oh, Johnny Davis is out of control. No, Johnny Davis's body control is elite, so he knew exactly what he was doing.
Driving to the rim. He is a slashing player.
He knew exactly what he was doing.
And he didn't extend his arm. He didn't put his shoulder into a chest. He was like Johnny Davis lowered his center of gravity because he's trying to get baseline. Like,
right.
Obviously, if you're a Michigan fan, you haven't seen Johnny Davis do that 100 times in the last 2 weeks. But whatever.
They got the full experience of the Johnny Davis effect in the second half. But I wanted to know, how come there was a no call? There was a rebound that went towards the Wisconsin bench, and Carlson got blatantly pushed with a left arm from somebody, and there was just a no call on it. And I'm like, how do you just not call that? Like, I would understand. I understand, like, the close. We're going to get those right. They're perfect. There's going to be human error. I understand that, and I respect that about every sporting event. But when there's, like, things that you should call, and my 9-year-old stepson can call it, I have a problem now. Like, that should be called. I just don't understand. I mean, and we're going to talk about the refs more when we get to the Minnesota game because it was just bad in the second half. I thought, in my opinion. But, I mean, for them to be in the bonus for almost the entire second half was ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
That's happened a few games. That happened in the Illinois game, too, and it was just annoying.
I know, and
it makes the game not fun to watch, really.
I have a different feeling about the Minnesota game, obviously, because we won that game. But if we would have lost that game, and it would have been the reason that we didn't win the Big Ten, because we got a really big game coming up next Tuesday, I would have been a little upset, I'm going to be honest. Be a little upset.
Last thing I want to say is Chucky Hepburn, he was feeling himself after he hit that dagger 3 that kind of, finished it off, that it wasn't going to be a comeback.
Mm-hmm.
I effing love Chucky Hepburn.
He is going to be good next year. I'm not expecting a Johnny Davis jump, but he'll make a jump. He'll be good. He'll average probably around 15.
I would put him in like a Jaden Ivey type thing, where he's gonna have his team ranked, but he's not gonna be player of the year.
I agree. He'll be a good player. We'll be in the top 25 next year for sure.
I like the thought of him and Crowell coming into next year and taking the keys together and co-piloting the batters next year. I like that, having a good starting center and a good starting point guard. I like that.
Who knows
and
what
I want
Crowell
to
can
see a
turn
lot of.
into, man.
I want to
showing
see a
some
lot of
potential.
pick and roll between those two. Is what I want to see next year.
And if Crowell keeps improving that 3-point touch,
Yeah,
and he showed some down low toughness last night, we could have ourselves a nice little center, man.
I like it.
He is, and I'm a white guy, man. I'm a real white guy. Look at this. But my God, is that guy pale? Jesus. Holy camole. I couldn't tell the white on his shorts for a little bit there last night. I was like, holy shit, dude.
How high are his socks? Oh, that's his legs.
His legs? Oh my gosh.
I thought he had white leggings on.
It looks like it, man.
All right, let's talk about the end of the game. Let's talk about what do you think from the end of this game led to what happened after the game, and then we'll talk about after the game.
Well, I think that Michigan continuing the full court press when the game was clearly unwinnable is just like, it's like somebody being like, okay, so you ever seen like the joke where somebody like slaps you in the back of the head, and it's on the, say you're sitting on the left of somebody, you slap on the right side of the head, and that guy gets blamed. It's kind of like, why is that guy getting blamed and you're just doing all the stuff wrong, and like you don't want to get caught? Like, it's like he didn't want to take any responsibility for anything he did wrong. You know what I mean? It didn't make any sense to me. And then for him to be like, oh, don't touch me. It's like, who are you, bro? You started all this. You're trying to press our backup point guard. Like, you're the first one acting like a dick, and then you don't want me to give it back to you.
If you got mad at him for calling the timeout because you wanted the game to be over, you scored with 22.4 seconds left.
Mm-hmm.
The college shot clock is 30 seconds long. If you wanted the game to be over, the game could have been over. But Greg Gard didn't want his bench guys to take a turnover, so he called a timeout. You treat your bench guys like your starters. I feel that way. That's what you do because you want them to have the mindset of a starter. So treat them like a starter. Don't say just because you're a bench guy, I don't care if you take a turnover.
They practice just as hard.
Just a shitty mindset. Like that's treat your bench guys like your starters, and they will have the mindset of a starter. So I'm fine with the timeout by Gard not wanting to take a turnover. You want to build good habits with your guys that could potentially contribute next season. And like I said, building habits, treating your bench guys like your starters. If you wanted the game to be over, Juwan Howard, who I think made some bad coaching decisions far before this, like continuing to tell your guys to shoot threes or not feeding the ball to Dickinson, who the Badgers did not have an answer for in the first half. Like, those are bad coaching decisions. If you want this game to be over, don't call a full court press. There's 22.4 seconds left. Badgers going to walk the ball across half court, dribble it out, game over. Why are you having a full court press in that situation? It's not a full court press. It's just full court man-to-man defense. That's still full court pressure. Press is short for pressure.
Yeah.
Why are they there if you want this game to be over? Why are they there? That's the only question you have to ask. It's a full court man-to-man defense. Why? If you want the game over, let it be over. Don't blame him for calling a timeout when you could have let the game end. I'm not saying Greg Gard is 100% innocent in this situation because I don't believe that he is. And I think that's where the fine stemmed from. And then he told his players to foul. What the hell? I can't believe that Michigan made the decision to suspend him instead of waiting for the Big Ten to do it and then firing him. You would have had a get-out-of-jail-free card to fire Juwan Howard after this. But I don't understand what Michigan sees in him to keep him around.
I don't know, man. He's got some pull. He's a former NBA player. He was one of their greats. I mean, I can understand where they're coming from, I guess. But the stuff that he pulled at the end of this game was bush league, in my opinion.
All right. How do you feel about what happened then after the game, starting with the handshake line?
Well, what I really think is Juwan thought he could just get away with saying some slick shit. Okay, we don't know what was all said. Okay, he definitely.
You could hear the one thing that he said when he pulled his mask down. You could hear that.
Yeah.
The reason that Greg Gard grabbed him.
Yeah, but I think he tried to say some slick shit. I think guard was just like, "Yo, listen, man, you ain't gonna talk to me like that just because you Jawan Howard. You're in my house right now." I actually love seeing guards stick up for his players like that.
I agree. Yep.
That's something that could help you get recruits in the future. First of all, but for him to just like try to again, it was him trying to like he did something wrong, but he didn't want to take responsibility for it.
He wanted the last word.
Yeah, it's somebody that talks shit but doesn't like the repercussions of it. Like, listen, dude, you say the right words to me, I'm gonna punch you in your shit. That's how the real world is. Okay, I'm sorry. And Juwan Howard thought he can get away with that, and clearly he couldn't because guard was just not gonna let him get away with that. Krabenov was not gonna let him get away with that, and it really pains me that we finally see Jacoby Neath make an impact in a game, and he always freaking throwing.
Oh, he made an impact.
He made impact. Yeah, he did. I don't know. It was Bush League. The whole thing was Bush League. Again, guard shouldn't grab his arm. I 100% agree with that. But yeah. Juwan Howard shouldn't be up there doing a freaking full court press and trying to say some 22
seconds left.
Shit. Yeah,
so exactly what he said. He pulled his mask down as he was walking past Greg Gard, and he said, "I'll remember that shit."
Yeah.
Like, dude, you could have let it be over. And Greg Gard stopped him when he tried to say that. And immediately he's doing this. He's got a finger in his face. As soon as Greg Gard stopped him to try to explain, he got confrontational. Instantly. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, no, they were going back and forth, and then it got heated, and then Juwan Howard's doing this, and then there's pushing and shoving. No, it was instant. Like, Greg Gard stopped him. He's like, don't fucking touch me.
Bro, did you see that one thing in Michigan? They were on the news saying that Greg Gard was racist. Did you see that?
Oh my god, no! I was like,
oh hell no! They did not just go up there, dude. That was crazy to me. I couldn't believe that. Oh, he's racist now. Yeah, that's a real thing. Look it up. It's a real thing. There was like 3 people on the news, and there's 3 guys on the news. There was like a couple standing around him, but they were literally calling guard racist. It was crazy. Yeah, that's exactly. I was looking at my phone like, there's no way, dude. But then again, I'm not shocked, right?
Oh, this guy. I don't know what to say to that.
He shook. Yeah.
I'll have to look that up. I don't know what to say to that. That's
yeah.
All right. You want to talk about the Minnesota game? I don't have a ton that I wanted to say about this game. But I have a couple of things that I want to say. So Stephen Crowell got in some early foul trouble, and Chris Vogt got a lot of playing time. The Badgers could have used a rim protector in this game. They got dunked on like 4 times in the first half, all by one guy.
He was going.
Okay, here it is. Chris Vogt is Boban Marjanovic.
Oh.
He's big, he's white, and he is very slow.
Oh my god. Dude, you see him shoot free throws? He seriously looks like he's taking a shit. Like, I'm being serious. Like, he's just all like, and I'm like, what is going on right now? That looks weird. It looks like you're hurt. Are you okay?
Chris Vogt is Boban Marjanovic. He's big and he is slow. He is slow.
Hey, at least Boban's funny.
Yeah, I don't know.
At least he's funny. He's funny. Yeah, I think.
That's about all I wanted to say about the first half. Like, pretty much the centers in the first half were all that there was worth talking about for the Badgers.
Well, Tyler Wall went on a personal run in the first half. He was balling for a little bit. And he had the steal to start the second half.
He did.
That 2-handed dunk, that was pretty sick. But I thought Crowell played amazing in this game, man. This
was the best game of his career.
Yeah, he had a big time 3. I want to give a
shout out to Chucky.
He does too, I know. Chucky hit a big time 3 in the first half. We were down 16-10. He comes down, pulls up a 3. I'm like, that kid is oozing confident.
He's feeling himself. I love Chucky Hepburn.
He also hit a really, really big mid-range jumper.
Yes, he did. Dude, he walked right into it. It was butter.
That's just, the confidence and knowing the scouting report, knowing that they're going to leave you open if you call this play. You're going to get this left elbow jumper, which is my favorite.
Dude went under the screen, wide open, 16-foot jump shot all day.
But man, Tyler Wall was everywhere. He got every rebound. He was the hustle man all game. But Jordan Davis, Jordan
Yeah.
Davis played huge. Had a nice floater. Hit a big time 3-pointer. I mean, who knows? Maybe next year Jordan Davis is the one. You know, the brother that takes the jump and comes out of nowhere. Who knows?
Maybe.
We don't know that. Nobody knows, man. He clearly comes from the same family, so maybe he has just a little bit of that athleticism and that basketball instinct. But I would say that Jordan definitely has a better 3-point touch, in my opinion. He looks more comfortable shooting threes.
His shot looks smoother.
Yeah. But Johnny's just everything. And he didn't even have the greatest game. He actually fouled out of this game, which was crazy. But, you know,
part of that is go ahead.
Minnesota's just a bad team. The Barn is a tough place to play, and it was crazy the stat that came out that Wisconsin basketball and Minnesota basketball, along with the football programs, were both tied in this series. That was amazing to me. Did you see that?
No, that's weird.
Yeah, the basketball was at 104-104. Oh God, where'd I put my phone? I took a picture of it because I was watching highlights on YouTube today when I was going over my notes and kind of making sure I had every impact play. But then, yeah, they had, here it is. All-time series was 104-104. And, the football was 62-62-8. So both have 62 wins, 62 losses, and 8 ties. So, I mean, Minnesota-Wisconsin is the ultimate rivalry in terms of college because it's just evenly matched.
Yeah. Yeah, in the NFL, that's definitely not the case. But, you know, Minnesota will act like splitting regular season games is somehow better than, you know, actually being in the playoffs.
Is equal to 4 Super Bowls or something. Like, yeah.
I don't know.
Just because you've been to 4, we have 4.
Right. So everybody except for Chucky Hepburn did really well at the free throw line. Chucky was 1 for 5. Kind of gross. Yeah. But so you mentioned Johnny Davis fouling out. Now, part of that is, and I'm going to tie this in with turnovers, is the Badgers need to kind of rein in their offensive fouls a little bit. College is a little more apt to call the offensive fouls, especially like the hooks and, you know, some of the contact, the block charge. I feel more of those go the way of the charge in college. Mm-hmm. But when you get that offensive foul, that counts as a turnover.
True.
So the Badgers, I'd like to see them kind of rein that in because, you know, the early turnovers and the offensive fouls that obviously added up in this game, and ended up with Johnny Davis fouling out. So he didn't shoot great, but he still had a solid all around game. I really hope Brad Davison snaps out of it. Purdue would be a great time to do it, but Brad Davison really struggling.
Shit. Saturday would be a good time to do it. We got a revenge game against Rutgers first.
Touche.
Play Rutgers at 5 o'clock on Saturday.
So I want to give Stephen Crowell some more love because I do believe this was his best game of his career. 20 points, 7 for 9 on field goals. And it seems like we've said this probably 4 weeks in a row now that Crowell always hits the timely three. He hits threes at the perfect times in every game. So I'm very excited to see what we can do with Stephen Crowell. Yeah. Tyler Wall finished with a double-double. The Badgers got 11 bench points. 11 whole bench points. They have more bench points than the Bucks did.
They have 15 assists in this damn game. That's pretty damn good.
And the Badgers are now up to 13-1 in games decided by 6 or less.
Bro,
that's the mark of a tough team. That's a tough team.
This team has a chance, man. If Brad Davison snaps out of it and starts hitting some of those threes, and Johnny Davis is doing his thing, and the others keep improving like they're doing, I mean, it's definitely a positive thing that Neath had a good game off the bench, and then he was suspended for a game, and Jordan Davis had a good game off the bench for a guard. I mean, if we can bring both those guys in, and Vogt can somehow just not suck, and he could just get some rebounds and block some shots, I mean, this team could put some shit together, man. I could see an Elite Eight in their future.
Dude, this I would put the starting 5 against most in the entire NCAA.
Pretty damn good.
And yeah, anything from the bench is just bonus.
I agree, 100%.
All right. Who would be your Badgers power pair?
Well, we both have Johnny Davis, right?
Yes.
Okay, so say your other one, then I'll say my other one.
My other one is Stephen Crowell.
My other one is also Steve McCall.
What?
All right, you take
He
Johnny.
he
You
put
take
two
Johnny.
good games together.
He did.
All right. So Johnny Davis was the man in the Michigan game, and he was just all around decent in the Minnesota game. And I said it when we talked about the Michigan game is that Johnny Davis is such a strong offensive player that he does not get credit for how good of a rebounder and defender he is. Like I really enjoy watching Johnny Davis go get rebounds. Because like I said, he doesn't wait for them to bounce to him. He goes and gets them.
Yep.
Like we know that Johnny Davis can fly. We know that he can dunk. But he puts that athleticism in on the defensive end as well.
Great.
He goes up like he's going for a two-handed dunk to go grab a two-handed rebound. He's not waiting for a center to tap him the ball or, just camping out by the three-point line waiting for a long shot produces a long rebound. Johnny Davis is going to get rebounds. I enjoy watching Johnny Davis rebound because he looks like he loves doing it.
God loves basketball.
That's a trait that is it's not terribly popular.
I agree.
When it comes to basketball players, specifically
especially guards. Yep, you hit the nail right on the head.
So, seeing the Johnny Davis as a guard that likes to go rebound, an NBA team that's picking in the top 10 is going to see that and say, hey, we aren't a great rebounding team, but we have a chance to grab a starting shooting guard that can help in the rebounding department. That's a huge plus for Johnny Davis, and I really enjoy watching Johnny Davis rebound the basketball. I brought it up when we did our mid-season progress report. I'm going to pull it up again, because Johnny Davis as a guard, I got it here. Johnny Davis, okay, Big Ten. Dang it, where do I have it here?
Do you want me to do Crowell real quick while you're looking that up?
Sure.
Crowell, I had Crowell, probably for a lot of the same reasons you did. He just played big. He made a lot of big-time shots. I mean, last night we had a possession where Davis was sitting on the bench and the shot clock was going down to 3-2, and then it hit the buzzer, and he did a hook shot right off the glass, and it was just like, wow, this kid, his confidence is growing. He's getting more comfortable on every spot on the floor. The one thing that he doesn't do is shoot mid-range, but he doesn't really need to. But you can put him on the block. You can do him in pick and pop, and he's been great. He averaged 15 points, 15 and a half, 6 rebounds, only 1 assist. He didn't have any blocks this week. He had 1 steal. But he shot 11 of 16, which is 69%. So you know what I'm saying? Nice. Yeah. I told you. Okay. Tell me we were going to do that. Let's go. Let's go.
All right. So Johnny Davis averages that's just defensive rebound. He averages 8.3 rebounds a game. He is a guard, averages 8.3 rebounds a game. That is 4th in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
The next player that is not a forward or center in the Big Ten is Bryce McGowens, who is probably going to be Big Ten Freshman of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be in the NBA. I compared him to Jason Tatum last week.
Mm-hmm.
He's the next player that is not a forward or guard. He is 25th.
Damn.
Johnny Davis is a damn good rebounder. That's 8.3 rebounds a game.
That's
4th in the Big Ten, and he's what, 6'4", 6'5"?
6'5", yeah. Feels 6'8". He really does, man.
8 rebounds a game at 6'5".
Bro, he had a dunk. It was after the foul call. It was on the floor, but he was standing underneath the rim, and it was left-handed. He just rose up underneath the rim and just wham, just powered that baby down. I'm like, holy shit, this guy can really get up, huh? Like, if you were a casual and you're just tuning into your first ever Badgers game, and that's one of the plays you see, you're like, oh shit, that guy's gonna make it in the NBA.
Yeah,
he can jump.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the other part of Johnny Davis. Like I said, the rebounding and the defense goes unspoken because he does so much on the offensive end.
I forgot one thing. I have it in my notes. I just saw it. I wanted to point out the really nice pass he had to Crowell. There was a play where Jordan, his brother, was on top, and Johnny was on the right wing. He cut behind his defender, and Jordan had to bounce the pass into him, and Johnny took a little dribble to his left, kind of a hop step dribble, and he ended up going up looking like he was doing a shot. And he kind of just threw the ball down the Crowell, and it just went through a window this big, and he fit the basketball through there. And Crowell hit a really nice little, little jump hook, and I was just like, Johnny Davis, that guy understands basketball. He can pass, he can score, he can rebound, he blocks shots. Like, the guy does everything, man. He's good.
All right, what is next for the Badgers?
Well, what's next is they play at 5 o'clock, like I said, against Rutgers. That is going to be a big-time game. Rutgers just lost to Michigan, so that was pretty crazy. I didn't think that was going to happen. But Rutgers is kind of coming back down to earth a little bit. A little bit of a revenge game for the Badgers.
I can't believe Rutgers isn't ranked.
I can't believe that either. I can't believe that either.
Alabama was 17-10, and they were ranked 24th or 25th, depending on which poll you looked at. And Rutgers is 16-10, and just beat 4 ranked opponents in a row in the Big Ten.
In a row, and on the road and shit. Like, I don't know.
And Alabama had just lost to Kentucky. Like, I get Kentucky's a top 5 team, but like Rutgers just rattled off like number 15, number 17, number 4, and number 12.
Yeah.
All in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, fire. Well, after that, we got the big matchup, man. We got Purdue.
That's Tuesday, right?
Yep, that is Tuesday. And then after that, they just play Nebraska. So really, Rutgers, that's a big one. That one's at Rutgers. And then the next one, by the way, I wanted to say this after I say it. We played Purdue at home. It looked like we had a crowd against Michigan. It actually sounded like people were sitting in the seats, were making noise, which was incredible. Hopefully they can continue that trend. That would be really nice. The Purdue game, though, I don't want to look past the Rutgers game because Rutgers is one of those sneaky good teams, man. They really are. But, man, that Purdue game is going to be heavy. That is a Tuesday night. That is going to be a great game. Great game. I'm really looking forward to that.
And the ranking committee has been pretty kind to the Badgers after beating teams that previously beat them. The two that I'm talking about are Ohio State and Michigan State. The Badgers beat them both of the second times they played them after losing the first one. So if the Badgers can rebound and turn that into a win and not look like a team has their number at all, I think that would help them as far as obviously record, but as far as ranking and then potential seeding goes.
Well, think about it this way. Say they beat Rutgers, right? And you're saying we split with everybody, right? Say we beat Rutgers. We'll probably move up in the rankings, probably 12 or 11, maybe move up 1 or 2. If they end up being Purdue for a second and Purdue's in the top 5 all season long, and then just finish the season by blowing out Nebraska, that'll probably be the game that Brad Davison comes back to life because he loves playing against Nebraska for some reason. But
yeah.
If they just clean sweep the rest of the season, go 3-0 the rest of the year, they have a 5-game win streak in a row here. I could see them sneaking into a 3 seed. 2 seed maybe.
I could see them being maybe potentially a 2 seed.
If they beat Purdue and they win the rest of their games.
Tell you what, this is what I'm going to say. If they beat Rutgers and Nebraska, I'm going to say they get a 3 seed. If they beat Rutgers, Nebraska, and Purdue, then I say they get a 2 seed.
There'd be no way. Dude, Purdue's a top 5 team all year, and Wisconsin beats them both times, and we split with everybody else. We're beating Houston. We're beating everybody. I mean,
Ohio State, Michigan State.
I mean, Michigan State, what the hell happened to them, man? I look like an idiot saying they were the biggest threat to us, but, man, they really have just really went down the hill, man. I can't believe it. I thought, coaching is so important in college, and I really thought Izzo would have righted that ship. And they just got nobody that could take what Izzo says in the huddle and produce it onto the court. They have no leader.
Picture Tom Izzo with Illinois' roster.
Oh my God. If you had last year's Illinois roster with Iowa,
oh my God,
they win the title easily.
Oh,
seriously,
that's scary.
That's scary. They would go nuts. They would probably they'd be in the top 5 for sure. Colburn.
That would be a boss team. Damn.
They had Io. They had, oh my God, Carbello, man. I mean,
Carbello, yeah.
They would be crazy. I mean, they still are good,
yeah.
obviously, but
Right.
yeah, they would be crazy.
You give them a top 5 college basketball coach.
Yeah, he's still a stud.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, Badgers right now. Well, Illinois lost, so they're 12-4 in conference, but we're tied with Purdue. So I mean, oh no, Illinois has to play a game. I think, are they playing right now? Illinois plays Ohio State tonight, so that will have a very big impact.
Oh, yeah. Cheering for Ohio State, who's still only a game behind. They're only a game behind the other 3.
Ohio State's 2 games. They're 10-5. It shows on here. But if Ohio State wins that game, Badgers split with them. I don't know how that would work out.
Are they 2 games behind in conference play or in total record?
Conference play. They're 10-5.
That's what
and we're 13-4. So I mean, that's a big time game right there. Yeah, you're talking about Rutgers not being ranked, right? Iowa is literally ranked 25th, and they have a worse conference record. I would like to see who won the head-to-head in that situation, honestly.
It's probably like super early in the year, and Iowa probably won by like 4 points or something.
Let's see. Iowa.
Or it was while Bryce Harper Jr. or not Bryce Harper Jr. Ron Harper Jr. was injured.
Well, when they played in January, Rutgers won 48-46. I'm trying to see if they won.
48-46. That sounds like a 2015 Badgers score.
So that's the only game Rutgers won it, and Iowa is the one that's ranked 25th. That doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. It's probably because they have a superstar player, Keegan Murray, honestly.
Yeah, that's.
But
whatever.
I mean, there will be a lot of teams. I mean, Michigan State will still probably sneak into the tournament. Indiana's probably on that.
Michigan State will be in the tournament. Michigan, I think, is going to end up finding themselves in the NIT.
Yeah, I can see that. I think Indiana still has a chance, man. I don't know. Something about Indiana. I think they could, if they run off a couple games here.
It's Trace Jackson Davis. As he goes, they go.
Yeah. Ah, man. We got some exciting stuff coming up here. I mean,
Saturday will be a good day.
March Madness is coming up. Yeah, Saturday's going to be a good day. We're going to hear news about Devontae and Aaron Rodgers pretty soon. Bucks basketball is going to start getting pretty good. Hopefully we get some news on some freaking Brewers baseball at some point here.
Yeah.
It's getting really annoying. It's getting to the point now.
It's not in a good place, honestly.
Yeah, it's getting to the point now where I start to get annoyed. And I try to let things, play out. But it's getting to that point where I'm kind of like, all right, you guys are just being jackasses now. Honestly.
Yeah. Baseball is in, like, serious danger of missing time.
Yeah. And you know what? If they do that again, I mean, they just had a 60-game season a couple years ago, not because of anything like this, but because of COVID. But if they have
That's
another
the reason I hate Rob
time,
Manfred. That 60-game season was BS.
Yeah, that was bullshit. Yeah, I'll agree with that. That was so stupid. But it is
Whatever.
what it is. But yeah,
for a sport that's already losing popularity, like, you got to get it together.
I agree. Well,
all right, man. Well, we will be back next week on Wednesday. Next week is going to be our first show in March. We are going to start at 4 o'clock next Wednesday. So we're moving it up a little bit so that these longer episodes aren't going until 7 o'clock. So we are going to start at 4 o'clock next Wednesday. But
yes.
Definitely going to be a lot more intense basketball discussion coming up as postseason nears. And Jake and I are getting into, the exciting draft prep season and free agency with NFL. So, like Jake said, some exciting stuff coming up.
Next Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Depending on how that Badgers game goes, we're going to have some shit to talk, man. Oh, could get good. We might potentially, I'll keep this door open. If the Badgers end up beating, or depending on how the game ends, maybe we have Mikey on next week, because next week is a massive, massive game. I'm just saying. So we'll talk. We'll be in discussion. We'll see what's going on. But yeah, other than that, thanks for our guest coming on here. That was a lot of fun. I was very nervous. Honestly, I was very tight. I wish I would have relaxed a little bit more. But yeah, this was a great episode. I had a lot of fun, man.
It's all right. I can carry the question asking for you.
You see how nervous I was in my face? I was like,
it seemed like for like at times you didn't want to talk. Like Like,
I was kind of like, just let him talk more.
well, that's
Just
like
let
I
him
said,
talk.
I wanted to be, respectful of his time, and I told him we were going to go through our stuff after we let him go. So,
Yeah,
I like that he kept the door open for the future and wanting to do it again. So, that's always good to
Yes.
have those relationships working out well for us. So.
Yep, just build more and more, build more and more. Hopefully people start. Hopefully, one day Wisco Fanatics is trending on Twitter. That'll be the day. That'll be the day I feel like I'm walking on water, buddy.
All right, I'd rather be credentialed with the Packers like Andy Herman, but Jake just wants to be trending on Twitter. So,
Hey, trending on Twitter, you get credentialed. That's all I'm saying.
you get street credentials for that. You get street cred.
I'm from the street, dog. All right, man.
All right. We will see you next Wednesday at 4:00.
All right, later, buddy. Take care.
Bye.